Just saw that.
Okay, you're all on video. Call the meeting to order. Bob, pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Amen.
There's no way to get out of this.
Have a seat. No, you still in. Attendance, we have new members on the board elected. Cindy was elected from being appointed. She has been elected. Matt Kiefer won the election. I unfortunately won the election in my office. And Ted, fortunately or unfortunately, won the office. That's how he feels. I'd like to welcome everybody, and there is no swearing in because essentially we sworn one in before the meeting because I couldn't call the meeting to order because our terms expired at 12:01 in the morning. So that's all happened. That's why I was sworn in before the meeting, okay? I'm gonna amend the agenda. I'm gonna move Rob up after the full presentation. I'd like to, for fire, I'd like to move Jim up right after Rob. And I'm gonna move Parks and Rec up to after County Commissioner. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to do? If not, go ahead.
Do we need to amend the agenda to talk about the central grant?
Well, I think they're gonna talk about it in Parks and Rec. Okay. So I thought we just let them reach out. Okay. Public comment. Gone.
I have a comment.
Sure, Libby, go ahead. Sorry.
Yep, thank you.
You're welcome.
Please provide an update for the taxpayers on the status of the Portage Point Inn special use permit. The SUP has been under consideration and discussion for over 16 months. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on the owl? No. Okay, thank you very much. Auditor report.
Minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. We jumped right ahead. We'll do the minutes first. Okay, minutes of the regular meeting. October 9th, 2024. Corrections, changes, additions, motion,
I'll make the motion. You approve the minutes.
as submitted. Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Cindy. Any discussion by anybody? No, I'm being heard. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Sorry, now back to on.
Okay.
So we've got, it's Madison, right?
Right.
Yep.
Madison here from our auditing firm, and I asked them to come and give just a brief presentation on the audit, which was as of the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2024. So I'll turn it over, and I can go to whatever page you need.
Okay. Yep. So as I said, my name is Maddie Barnett. I'm a CPA with that UHY. I'm just gonna go over some highlights of the audit. I'm just gonna scroll through and follow along with me on the screen over there. So we're gonna go to page 1, second paragraph, which is the independent auditor's report. Second paragraph, which just shows our opinion there. That's an unmodified and unqualified opinion, best you can have, basically. And then the next section is the MD&A, which I'm actually gonna skip over. It's just basically a narrative of the financial statements. So we're gonna go straight to the financial statements. Focus on the fund level income statement, which is on page 15. So first thing is the general fund. As you can see, the general fund increased their fund balance by 172,605. Brings the ending fund balance to almost 1.2 million there. Funded better than what was budgeted. The budget had a decrease in fund balance of 4,270 actually. So, and then the budget versus actual is for the back of the audit on page 31. Some highlights of the general fund. Compared to the prior year, the increase in revenues, mostly due to taxes, state grants, and increase in interest income. Decrease in expenditures related to attorney fees, decrease in sewage disposal activities, planning and zoning and parks and rec. And then onto the fire fund. Fire fund was pretty comparable to the prior year overall, had a slight decrease in fund balance, about 1,800, which brings the fund balance to 556,574. And then the road fund increased its fund balance by 205,000, which brings the ending fund balance to 885. Increase in revenues due to taxes and interest, decrease in expenditures. Only small projects this year compared to large re-gravel in the prior audit year. And then lastly, lake improvement fund, increase in fund balance by about 33,000, which brings the ending fund balance to 82,669. Revenues are comparable to the prior audit. Decrease in expenditures, mostly due to the less lake treatment than the prior audit. So next I'm gonna move on to the one of our letters, the communication with those charged with governance. Basically shows our audit findings. Yeah, if you wanna go to page 2. The section, other audit findings or issues. Budgeting, general fund is over budget in two activities, very minimal amounts. And then the fire fund was over budget in total as well. Then that next comment there, credit cards reimbursements. Township is exempt from paying or reimbursing sales tax, so that's just something we found as one of our tests. Yeah, so pretty good audit overall. And then next letter is a report on internal controls. And we have one comment that most townships have, which is a lack of segregation of duties. It's just, most townships are organized based on number of personnel. Pretty much all townships have a lack of segregation of duties. And then there's one new comment this year. I'm gonna go scroll down a little bit more, which is the unfavorable budget variance, which is related to the fire fund being over budget by a material amount. It's a compliance finding, just due to, you had more capital outlay expenditures in that fund than what was budgeted for. Just need to continue to monitor your budgets and amend when necessary. Yeah, that's all I had. If anyone has any questions for me.
And we do a 2-year audit just.
Correct, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, so most of my comparisons were from the last audit
Yeah.
year.
So let me ask you a question. We hire a local CPA firm to help true up the year-end stuff and do some other things for us. Do you guys find that helpful when you're coming to do the audit?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely saves us a lot of time too, so that's very helpful.
Anybody else have any questions?
No, I'm glad to hear that's working out. So the budget thing we had with the fire department was due to.
Well, so I think we need to have a little bit more formal budget amendment process. I think with the transition with the clerk, just didn't happen towards the end of the year, and with them buying all the capital stuff, the down payment, I think, put it over.
Oh, because, okay, could have transferred though.
Well, they just need to do a budget.
Well,
It was,
yes.
it was an approved expenditure, it just was the administrative file to amend the budget.
Yeah, it doesn't look like the budget was amended for the fire fund, so yes, once you're anticipating that expenditure, just need to amend the budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone in the public have a question? Want to ask? Yes, sir.
Is
Go
this online?
ahead. Oh,
Yes, it's in
the
the,
audit?
it's in the packet.
It's in the packet and it will be on there's a page that has all of our past audits going back, I think, 10 years. We're gonna add it to that as soon as we do this meeting, basically.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? No, thank you very much, and,
Thanks, man, appreciate it.
how about Dan from Friends of the Pool? Do we call it that?
That's what we're called.
Friends of the Pool, okay, very well, welcome.
Thanks. I've got all the prop there. Can I just to help me out, get a show of hands, is anyone here aware of the controversy growing all the way down in Scotland? 1, 2, 2, 3. Okay, good. So, Mayor, on behalf of a nonprofit, Friends of the Pool, I'm on the board, it so happens. And the controversy is that 2 years ago, we learned that the college president, this is West Shore Community College, announced at their college kickoff that he planned to close the pool, the swimming pool, it's a 25-meter, 6-lane pool. It's been there for 25 years. He plans to close that pool, fill it in with cement, and convert it to pickleball courts. And since I'm an avid swimmer, I heard this through some friends who worked at the college. And so I told other swimmer friends, and then we got together and formed this nonprofit group in order to try to save the pool. And so as a nonprofit, we're mostly educational. We can't advocate for any particular, can't ask you to vote one way or the other, any particular agenda, just that we think the pools are important and we should save it. And the first question you have is, why are you up here on Onekama? Because if I wanted to swim in the pool, I should go right down to Manistee and stop right there. That's apparently a very nice pool. And I'll get to that in a second. It is of general concern because this is an important resource that the college owns. And it's worth a great deal of money as it is. A little bit of investment is worth a lot more money. And it would cost more than $20 million to replace it at some future date. Back when the college was founded, in the late 60s, one of their spokesmen announced what the college plans were, buildings they were going to build. First, they started out with T-shacks, and they began to build buildings. And the original vision of the founders was that there was going to be a rec center. That rec center would have a swimming pool. And that apparently was because they wanted people to learn how to swim, because drowning deaths here along the shore of Lake Michigan are horrendous. And if people knew how to swim, then water safety would avert a great many tragedies. Lake Michigan is the most dangerous of the Great Lakes. Swimming deaths it's the highest cause of death, children 1 to 4, and the second highest cause of death, teenager up to about 14 or 15 or so. So it is an important issue, and people need to learn to swim. The legislature is currently entertaining legislation of having swimming instruction happen in a classroom, just, but with by video, without any actual swimming instructions. So water safety is our big concern. And also, of course, for the health and welfare of the community as we age. For example, all my joints are shot, but swimming is the one exercise I can engage in. I am an avid swimmer. So what we're working to do is to raise awareness of what's going to happen and try to get people to support us, to write to the Board of Trustees. A local gentleman, Mr. Tomaszewski, I could be saying that wrong, is on the Board of Trustees of the college. And it would be nice for him to hear from people to support this. The president put forward 3 reasons why he wanted to close the pool. It's too costly to maintain. The usage doesn't warrant its continued maintenance, and they're having a hard time finding lifeguards. All of these are overstatements. The cost of maintaining the pool comes out to about 140-something thousand a year. That number was, I FOIA'd 4 different times. I won't say plucked out of thin air, but it's surmised. It's a guess because they could not locate any specific accounting document that identified the expenses related specifically to the pool. It's just kind of a guess. He seems to think that certain parts of the college ought to operate at a break-even level, but the college is completely subsidized by taxpayer dollars, whether they're local or state. And so there's nothing about a nonprofit community college that needs to make a profit or break even. It's built into the system. It's going to cost money. The low usage is because of the pandemic. And during the pandemic, they decided to divide up the lanes, and you had to go through a registration system to swim. And so now there's only 1 person per lane, or now we have two people per lane per hour. But some people swim 15 minutes and they go and work out. They might come back. It's all, as pardon the pun, kind of fluid. I did some FOIAing. I got pre-pandemic numbers. There used to be about 1,500 on average, 1,500 swimming users swimming in the pool per month. And this included open swims. So this one woman tells me, I just learned this, that she and her friend, they would go rent a hotel room so that they could bring their kids, so they could play in a pool during winter because they no longer have open swims. Because I believe the president doesn't want people to use the pool because he doesn't want the numbers to look too good in support. The inability to find lifeguards, that's another red flag. our local high school, Wedding High School, simply called up Red Cross and somebody came up from Holland to teach lifeguard certification. And within that day, 8 lifeguards were created. So it's not difficult to find lifeguards. They don't pay very well, they could pay better. That's a good issue. So one of the things is we think with increased programming, like general awareness, that the pool, in fact, whether it actually breaks even, would absolutely be worthwhile to the community. The president has not told us what it would cost to fill that with cement. I mean, there's 75,000 gallons of water in there. So we don't know that. And also to do that to a pool that would be assessed at around $15 million just as a resource, or cost 25 million to replace, makes it, I think, a dereliction of fiduciary responsibilities, and that should concern all. Thank you very much. I've left some little flyers there with our address, things you could say to the board of trustees, if you care to email them, or if you see Mr. Tomaszewski, please, tell him what you think, please.
Could you give me your last name, please?
Connolly, Connolly.
Thank you.
Sure.
Dan,
Yes.
would a resolution from this board, if they were amenable to that, supporting of the pool, that'd be helpful?
That would be very helpful. Very. Well, so there's some pamphlets. Any other questions?
I have a question. Do you know how I call it an initiative or an exploration of having housing on that campus impacts the pool? Because to me, I don't know all the background of that, but to have housing at West Shore Community College makes no sense. And I've had 5 kids attend West Shore.
I'm with you on that. There is not.
Exploring it.
Yeah, part of what I can tell you what he told me in an early meeting, we aren't speaking. In an early meeting, he said it's one or the other. Either I can have the money to invest in this pool, or I can go with the housing. And I think he believed pre-pandemic. This is a rumor, that he had hoped foreign students would be one part of the population that would fill these dorms.
Because they're in our service district?
Exactly. There's low enrollment at the college because the pipeline of the local high schools is dwindling, the population is aging, and that's just the nature of things. As I understand it, there's what they call full-time equivalent. If you take all the hours taught and divide that by what's called a full course load, 12 hours, there's like 380 something full-time equivalent students at the college. Used to be closer to that. So that is dropping, and that's a problem. But these millages just keep getting renewed regardless of. So another thing that stymies me is the kind of switch to real estate development of community centers. They bought a building in Manistee, and that with the idea that it'd be part of the campus, but classes aren't taught there. And then they bought a grocery store down in Hart, and they rent these out to nonprofit. And so they're not making profit on these things. So the housing, yes, what student would come from out of.
I have no idea what stuff they can attract.
One thing that might change the financial dynamic is I think, didn't the state just pass a law that says basically they're gonna pay for community college for eligible students?
For housing, yes, so
Not
that,
for housing, for tuition.
oh,
So I
well,
think,
already Mason County has a Mason County promise.
correct, but that's an anomaly. This is
Yeah.
statewide, so I think that's gonna increase the numbers potentially.
That'd be great, but I don't think, I taught at residential college, I taught at Onekama College most recently. The problems and nightmares that come from young adults living in dorms, that is everything you could expect or might remember. And plus, it's out in a rural area, so they're gonna drive to town, they're gonna have a security force, they're gonna have some kind of cafeteria. There is a host of issues I don't think has been addressed in this plan.
How much do they think all that was gonna be? Do they come up with a figure, a projection? No, that's never just been bannered around.
I mean, all thing, I vaguely remember hearing 20 million.
Okay.
College has 17 million in short-term investment. And in our estimation, to fix the pool, just like to bring it, would cost maybe 600,000 or 700,000. But of course, they float a number more like 3.5 million. It's just.
So can I ask, what is wrong with the pool now? Cracks?
Well, so it's a tile pool, which is the best kind of pool to have. And so the grout, it's a pretty caustic environment, the chlorine, so the grout deteriorates. And so there's some holes in that, and that might be letting a little bit of water seep into what's called the substrate. The college finally commissioned an audit, and it came back showing the pool was a weak bottom, very healthy considering its age, and the lack of, there's a lot of deferred maintenance. So that's one of the things, is just going around and fixing the tiling, sealing up the grout, which is just applying this, you know, like you do in any household, you just put a sealer on top. The one big issue is there might be a leak in a drain that runs through solid concrete underneath the pool. But there are fixes. You don't have to dig up the pool and replace that pipe. You can put in this liner. They have these ways to put in these liners, and you, with steam, it's an epoxy film that seals the pipe. And that's a drain, so it's not under pressure. The water just flows out. But there's been some deferred maintenance, and the longer that goes, the more expensive the fix is.
Okay, anybody else questions for Dan? Or-
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
Yes, my pleasure. And again, please pick up the pamphlet and let your community know.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Rob, go ahead.
You got the fire report in front of you. The only thing I would ask the board at this time is, you see that Grand Traverse Mobile Communication bid? Right. That is for the radio for the new engine, which when we spec'd out the engine, we didn't put a radio in there because we knew we were going to be around this time when we were switching over communication systems in Manistee County. And so we didn't want them to put the wrong radio in the engine and have to pull out and buy a new radio to put the 800 in there is what they're called, right? So we said, just leave it and we'll just buy the radio, at the time after the county makes their decision of when they're gonna pull the trigger on the new 800 system, which they have. So we've now gone all 800, all of our vehicles in Manistee County have been switched over from high band to an 800. So now it's time for us to buy the radio for that truck. That radio is a dual head, so you'll be able to operate it from the cab and you'll be able to operate it back at the pump panel.
Isn't 911 pay for all our radio?
Yes. Under this one, I probably would have to run it through dispatch to see if they would pay for that. It's after the fact. It missed the.
Because we didn't have a truck, can we do that?
We have a truck at the time.
They levy a millage and they pay for radios for everybody else. I think we should ask them to pay for this. And if they don't, then we can get it. I mean, I don't see why, I don't see why they wouldn't or why they shouldn't pay for this.
Yeah, I don't know if they had to buy a lump sum of them or how that worked, but I can find out.
Okay, when do we need this by?
So if scenario was if we ordered it this week or early next week, it would be next year, early first month in next year, January,
Okay,
before we get it. Trucks due here in April.
okay.
So probably find out here in real short order if they'll buy that or not.
Well, they should, but they don't, I don't see, I don't know what the reason is they
I don't
don't.
think they have a reason to deny it. They
Oh, who's in
everybody
charge?
else
I don't even know who.
Mike, so I say Mackin, but it's Mansion or
Mansion?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't you do that first?
Okay,
And then if you don't get anywhere, you call me and give me his number.
got him.
Well, they should pay for it. Are we paying up in village?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of asking.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how that works after department, that, you know, because people buy vehicles after. radio.
Right, they have to-
And I don't
they have
know if
to-
they
Okay.
grandfather.
Well, did they not put a, so what about the radio in the existing? So they didn't replace the one in the existing
The
truck
one that's in the existing engine right now is an 800.
that was bought back in the day or?
Was bought with that. Oh,
So what do you do with that radio?
that will probably come out of the truck when the new truck is here.
Okay.
Um,
I mean, can we use that one or that's not a dual station radio?
not a dual station radio, so you'd have to upgrade that one. And timing would be of essence. It would take them, you know, when the truck gets here, you're gonna be able to use it.
Right, you need the radio. I guess
So
we'll figure it out. Okay, just that.
We were gonna pull that radio out and put it as our base station.
That's fine.
Which,
Just tell me another
They
radio.
didn't provide us an 800 megahertz base station.
no, they
on the
would,
radio.
I asked for it and they said no.
They were just doing the vehicle and the
Right, and they wouldn't give us one for the side by side. They give one for both. They said, yeah, we see the value of that, but not.
Well, I can see the value
can
of
see
the
it.
truck.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I really have other than the fire report, if you look through it real quick.
Where are we gonna end up for runs this year, do you think, for the total for the year,
Uh,
over or under?
We're gonna be under what we were last year, so we'll probably be around that 325 mark.
Okay,
Historically, we were up in the 360s. But, you know, this summer, this summer, we did not have an influx of calls like we normally have, which would indicate maybe tourism was down just a smidgen around the area, and that's what drives those numbers up as visitors, so that would be a good indicator. And Bob, you can take care of other things later.
thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Financial report, balance sheet, revenue and expense report.
So nothing remarkable about that. Interest income is gone down just a little bit because the Fed's been cutting interest rates, but,
Still in the fours?
high fours.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that, would be interesting to see what the Fed ends up doing. We're gonna be monitoring that. There's probably a few budget amendments that we need to do, probably have those ready for the next meeting. And then there's a list of the bills that were paid last month, so I don't know if anybody had any questions on any of that.
I don't like it. Okay. Clerk's report, Mr. Clerk.
Still don't like,
Yeah. You know, well, it's not gonna change.
if it wasn't for Cindy and Ed and a few other people, I would be committing Harry Carey.
Hey, the election went fine, didn't it?
Amazingly, for two people, with a little help, the two of us were really not prepared to do an election. With a little help, we didn't get audited. Everybody got through it. I don't know how, but it happened.
Did a fine
You
job.
need to give yourself more credit.
Yeah.
And I think your deputy deserves a big round of applause.
Yeah,
She
man.
did a lot of work.
She, without her, I couldn't have done it at all.
And our helper helped out quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had hired,
Sharon Belden.
Beldo, Fran Beldo
Or
from
Fran.
Baseball.
Sorry.
Who was here, and
She was
actually
here.
it was a godsend and a work.
She is a clerk in Maple Grove, and she ran their early voting in Maple Grove and did a pretty darn good job there. So she helped a lot. Other than that, it's trying to keep the confusion under control.
Okay. So what about your report? Have a report?
Yeah, that's it. Report, yeah, I'd like to report out of here, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Treasurer's report.
Like I mentioned, interest, earnings are coming down, but we still had $6,600 last month, which, pretty good. Summer taxes are pretty much all been paid, and, winter tax bills will go out here probably next week, payable starting December 1st. We're gonna finalize the email items that we've been working on with our IT vendor now that the election is over, and we can get a good count and get the names and everything, and then our online payment software has been submitted, but we're just waiting on the vendor for scheduling. That's all I got.
Okay. Anybody have questions of the treasurer or, okay. County commissioners, Jeff? Janice? No show. Since I asked about Parks and Rec, Vic, are you on?
Can you hear me now?
I can.
I can hear you now.
There you are.
All right. So, meeting minutes for October were posted out on the website this morning. As you guys know, normally Parks and Rec meets on the last Friday of each month, but in November and December, that's problems because of the holidays. So no meeting in November. Next meeting is December 6th. I'll have that agenda out on the website by the 1st. Few items of note. I am not in town, and I'm guessing that the rigid walkway is now behind the township office. Is that right?
Your guess is right.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. That was done by Anthony's. Next thing, our maintenance employee, that ended in mid-November after getting the storage trash cans and the fire rings and that sort of thing picked up at Langland. So we're done with that for the year. The sign at Seymour has been updated, so it now clearly points to both North Point Park and to the boat and kayak launch. You'll recall that you approved that sign at the last meeting. Those are the only items of note. There's two items for you to consider. First was on the agenda. It's the signed Glen Park that was destroyed by an automobile. We were notified, Gene was notified by a citizen who walks there, did not do a police report, and the cost to replace is $1682. I don't know whether we use insurance or not, so I would just defer to the board what we do in a situation like this.
you have any idea who did it? No.
No.
Okay. You know, I don't know deductible.
I think we need to replace it and we can send it to insurance and see if they'll cover it.
Okay. Vic, why don't you order the sign? We'll just get it ordered and then we'll turn it in and see if, but I don't know how large our deductible is. We've had a lot of issues, obviously, with insurance already this year, so. I'm gonna go to that well quite a few times.
All right. All right. Well, we have it. We have the bid, so we'll tell Tom to go forward with it. The other item for you to consider is Rick Almadine is also on Zoom today. He's our lead on the trails team, and he wants to talk about next step. So if it's okay with the board, I'd ask Rick to take the lead.
I'm gonna ask for a pause. Do
Sure.
we need to make a motion on purchasing that sign?
Yes, it's gonna
Oh, I'm
entail
sorry.
money.
Hold on, would somebody make that motion?
I will make the motion. Pay the
Purchase the sign.
purchase of Glen Park sign.
There's second?
Second.
Second in, okay. Any discussion? No, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Thank you, Cindy. Go ahead. Vic and Rick.
So Rick, go ahead if you're there.
Yeah, I am. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Just to give you an update on the trail project, our last open meeting, we received the segmentation study of individual sections and options of the trail. The team's at the point now where we need additional work on development, planning, and investigation to determine and help us support what actually it is, what would it cost us. If you remember, a couple months ago, we were awarded a grant from the Michigan Health Endowment Fund. That was a non-matching fund, no requirement involved, and no payback or liability during the planning process. At that point, we requested a extension, which they gave us till December, because we weren't at the point where we wanted to execute that. We're at the point where we'd like to recommend to go ahead and sign off on that and release funds for that.
Wait, we're talking from it.
Oh,
Hello?
no, someone else is not muted.
Okay, so the technical and investigation work we're looking at is roadway
Rick,
configuration.
Rick, hold on a minute. Hold on, we'll try to get rid of the.
Must be
back-
in his background, everybody else's.
You got background noise, maybe?
Hello?
Go ahead, now I can hear you.
Okay, so that would be technical and environmental work like wetland delineation, anything with the roadway configuration, because MDOT would require some technical stuff if they're going to truncate their section at all, boundary surveys, preliminary engineering, lighting, signing utilities, trailhead, and what have you. All those things are not only required for us to make a sound recommendation when we get there, whatever the trail may be, but also it prepares us for a future grant, which would be the MDOT TAP grant. These funds would support allowing us to intellectually decide and find out what works, but also would be for a TAP grant. Just to give you farther looking forward, conceptually, we would take these monies over the next year, work through all these points. If we're at the point where we had a trail that was aligned with the community and the township and the village, we would apply for a TAP grant. Our early estimates, which are very early, is a $3 million project. MDOT requires a 20% match. So that would lead to a cost of $600,000. What we'd like to also do simultaneously over the next 12 months is pursue grants to offset that $600,000 cost. And I'm going ahead of myself to give you a full view of how the project would look. The immediate thing we're interested in is the approval to go forward and execute the Michigan Endowment Grant, which is just over $100,000. No matching funds are required. And that's just for the development piece.
Question?
Yeah, I'm not sure how I want to ask it. Know what I'm thinking, but, so Rick, this is Cindy.
You have to take a couple
Help me reconcile, or even for everybody listening, how we move forward with this particular grant, use the funds when, as I understand it, at this moment, we don't know how we're going to go about the trail.
Sure. If I understand it properly, this is to take the entire segment, whatever the trail is, to find out what the environmental issues, what the costs are, utility costs or what have you. So as we proceed down the path and define what the path is going to be, we know ahead of time what the cost issues are. If we didn't have these funds, we could tell you the path is going to be X, but it really wouldn't be feasible or no work would be done to see if it's viable. These are simultaneously dollars to take the whole section of the community through the village and the township and investigate all the engineering, environmental, and MDOT requirements.
So take the whole section and look at all options.
Yes. This was put together early before any options were looked at. So the dollars would take us from Crescent Beach all along M22 into the village, outside the village, down M22 and to North Point Park, whatever the option is. So there's support funds to help us make a decision. And whenever that decision is made, it is credible because all the costs and work's been done. And then at that point, if a trail is agreed upon and reviewed, a submission to MDOT for the TAP grant would have all their requirements included.
Rick, how much of the work that's gonna be done under this grant is either duplicative or overlays the work that was done with the money that the township appropriated with the engineering firm?
Very little. All the work that was done so far is more high level, not going into any detail. When you're looking into roadway configurations, curb alignments that MDOT needs, any type of soil boring, storm management, utility easements, any of the topographical or boundary surveys that would be needed, any technical engineering plans, work on trailheads, etc.
So at what point do the parties involved with this get to the point where they can say to the community, this is what the trail is going to look like, and now we're going to engineer it?
If I understand your question, Ed, it would probably be, I would think, like in a 6-month time frame. We would continuously work and get that information forward. I would estimate in a 6 to 8 month time frame.
So at the end of the day, when this grant is done, will we have engineering documents that are ready to go out for bid, or more, here are the challenges, and somebody has to engineer that in the context of the next phase of the project?
I would say a little bit of both. It would have all the requirements that MDOT needs for their grant. They may do some additional work, but I would guesstimate it'd be about 3/4 of the work. And the balance of the work would be included, MDOT would be included in their funds if we were awarded that grant.
Is this would be like a required prerequisite of MDOT to have these things done?
Exactly. Yes,
Oh,
that's
okay.
exactly it.
Okay, so if we wanted to move forward with whatever is decided upon, this is one of the hoops that needs to be gone through.
Yeah, and we're fortunate to be able to have that awarded and go forward. Otherwise,
Okay.
we'd have to stop and wait for that, and it would move it out multiple years.
So you're gonna go do all this planning. If you didn't do that, we were just still guessing. I know this figure's been bandied around by everybody, but until you do this, I don't, it's hard to guess. You can't guess. And then we don't even have a final. Well, obviously we know now, we don't want to eliminate parking. We already know that can't happen, so we're gonna.
And MDOT's gonna have a lot of say in what happens or doesn't happen. So
Well, I have
if this is one of their
questions.
hoops, and you don't have a choice, you jump through the hoop. It is.
Rick, go ahead, Joe, you had that question or?
Yeah, so we've been hearing that the GFA would finish a feasibility study, going back to Cindy's question. You've got a total confusion out there of what this will look like. Nobody has an idea. And it seems like the feasibility study, Vic sent an email to me that said the engagement with GFA is completed, which means they should have produced a final feasibility study for this and somewhat of a picture of what they're going to do engineering on. It just seems like you're going to spend $100,000 on something you don't even know. The community doesn't know what the concept is we're engineering for. And the community really hasn't gotten a clear picture, and you're going ahead with something that you don't even know if it has community support. So you're gonna spend $100,000, get down the road, and will the community support it? The general public, the board here, and the council. So I go back to Cindy's question. We've been told, or we've understood that the feasibility study would say, it's feasible, this is what it would look like. It may need to be amended when engineering is done, but right now, it's as clear as the paint on the wall.
So Joe, I don't want to speak for Rick and he can respond. I thought Rick's response addressed what you're saying, because what my question was is relative to the engineering. We're talking about these segments, which we've all seen, which deal with all types of options. And so I wanted to understand or reconcile in my mind that the funds would be used not to necessarily look at a particular plan, but to evaluate all the segments that could be within the plan to be able to check engineering cost, whatever, which to me would be valuable information. Or then when we're looking at the plan to say, okay, this does make sense, it doesn't make sense relative to cost. I mean, there may be thoughts that have been banded around, and again, I'm not making a judgment, but perhaps when engineering is done, they're saying, wow, you're just not gonna be able to do that because of X. which today we may not know those answers.
But I'll go back to your contract with GFA. It called for a completed feasibility study within 90 days. You are far beyond that. And a feasibility study, we've been told, would say, is it feasible or not? And I understand engineering is the next step in there. But how about some kind of clear picture? What are you engineering?
Yeah.
I would just reinforce what Joe just said. I don't think the community knows what those sections look like at this point. And, you know, that's maybe naive, but I was at that meeting.
I think they put out too many, well, there's a bunch of options, right? So yeah, there's a whole bunch of ways.
But
Especially through the village.
and there are a lot of issues that were not resolved in terms of LAs or not LAs. I personally, as a citizen, do not have a clear idea of what is being engineered, what you're spending $100,000 for. I'm Joe, there was supposed to be a feasibility. Will it work? Well, let's find out what it is they're asking to say, will it work? So you've got A, B, C, D, E sections. What does each one of those sections look like? Nobody seems to know.
And that's why I asked the question, and I'll ask it again. Rick and Vic, please chime in here. I think there is some overlap because the study that the township funded in this grant, because of timing, had to overlap, but part of the process that's required by the health fund is that there is some more public input and participation to kind of figure out, okay, we actually then gonna go to the next step for an engineer? Is that correct, Rick and Vic? Am I misstating that?
That's correct. You
Okay.
hit right on the nail.
But is there community support to use that grant money?
Well, if I could just weigh in, I mean, what I heard Rick say is that the community input would come like 6 months down the road. I think it'd make a lot more sense to get that community input up front.
Yeah.
In a sense, like, you know, I don't want to go on a cruise. I don't care how much the cruise costs. I'm not looking at options. So in a sense, the community, you know, has to be convinced like, yeah, this option, these are things we want. These are things we support. And then, you know, the details matter. Ultimately, the choices are going to be significantly cost driven. But let's get the community input soon.
But I think to me, that's what you're gonna do in the first 6 months is get this defined as to what everybody, as maybe not 100% obviously, but as a majority says, this is what we want to see, right? And then they incorporate that into this, to come up with the cost about what needs to happen, but
That's not what I heard. I heard Rick say that we're gonna do the cost study to see if then it can be done. So the next step is to go and take each one of these sections and see what it's gonna cost for,
well, Dan, I think you have to at least have the route picked out first and what you're gonna do. Right.
Before you do
I mean,
the.
otherwise you can't get the cost, I
I
think.
agree wholeheartedly.
Okay.
I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying, but I don't see where that's happening, Dave. I don't see the contract that you had with GFA, where they were supposed to hold six meetings with the citizens in terms of coming up with what this plan will look like. There have not been 6 meetings.
There have been 0 meetings with the residents and the business owners in the village. And just to let you know. the
Excuse me,
village
there's
is-
been 0 meetings? What are you talking about?
No. 0 contact to date. Not a single business owner or residents were contacted by GFA to give input on this.
Okay, can I read something to you, Joe?
Let me finish.
No,
one
because
last-
I wanna, we don't have. This has been on the website for months. Let me just read it for you so everybody can hear what it says. Okay, the Michigan Health Endowment Grant request of $100,800 was approved without the requirement of matching funds. The grant, if accepted, will be used to finalize the engineering requirement for a trail system. The engineering process would be awarded to an accredited firm and next actions will be based on the detailed grant submission. It is during this phase of the process that the final and specific trail plan will be developed based on feedback from the feasibility study. Widespread community involvement is built into the engineering grant submission with a specific requirement to conduct a comprehensive community needs assessment through surveys, focus groups, and interviews to understand the specific requirements and aspirations regarding walkability in the target area. Next, we'll establish a multi-stakeholder engagement framework involving residents, local businesses, civic organizations, and government agencies. Through regular meetings, workshops, and online platforms will facilitate meaningful dialogue, idea sharing, and consensus building. It's been on the website for months. That's what's gonna happen.
This phase, I don't think anyone's tried, because I don't think anyone has come down and said, other than we have some ideas. It'd have to be finalized by everyone and agreed upon, right? I think that's what this speaks to, but.
No, but, I mean, my sense is that even the preliminary ideas really don't have a consensus behind. So the sooner, we get that consensus, before the engineering, the better. Of course, the engineering is gonna have to be modified and
You're
refined.
absolutely right. We're not gonna put that cart in front of the horse.
Right.
You've gotta do
But
those steps.
I think
first.
first.
Right.
And this is one of the required steps.
It's the TAP grant doesn't require that we have a community fund grant. The TAP grant requires certain specific engineering requirements to be able to apply for it.
And
This
would be
grant
one.
will allow us to get most of that,
And
or all of
again,
that.
it's another MDOT's who that we have.
Yeah, for the TAP grant. Rick, chime in anytime.
I think the discussion is right. It's a chicken or the egg. You need to have all this work being done along the way. And to add your point that you reiterated is there's all these built-in engagement and interactions within the grant. And that was one of their requirements along the way. A lot of ideas could be reviewed and talked about, but at the end of the day, you got to do the deep dive to find out what can be done and what can't. The feasibility study should be delivered by the end of the month, but that's only skin deep. You've got to go much deeper into the options to figure out what can or can't be done. So at the same time, if the community decides to go right, left, center, backwards, at the same time, you got to find out, is it actually doable to make it work? And that's the beauty of this grant. And as I mentioned, we delayed it 3 months because we were too early. They gave us an extension till December. So that's where we are right now to get a decision one way or another on using these funds.
Yep.
Go ahead, Rick.
The only other thing that I'll add is that the feasibility study has been completed. In the final report, it's going to say that all these alternatives are available, and we're going to need to really dig into each of those alternatives, because maybe there's one that we like that is going to cost more money because MDOT won't cover this portion, that portion. Maybe there's another one that we might like, but TAP won't pay for it because it doesn't have adequate bike lane width. These are the things that we're going to discover as we go down the road. So as Ed read to the group, the trails team has to work with the public going forward. It's part of the grant, and we'll now ferret out at a level of detail which way we're going to go. So,
Vic, the work that was scheduled, or is the scope of work that's described in the grant, there's gonna be oversight by the folks from the Michigan Health Endowment Fund at every step of the way to make sure we're not running off the rails. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We need to report to them on a regular basis our progress along the way to a project manager.
Okay, and what is the process gonna be to get the firm that's going to do the work under this grant?
We're going to have to make that decision once it's awarded.
I'm sure they have competitive bidding requirements.
I haven't gone, I don't know that detail. I'll have to get back to you.
So the reason I'm kind of drilling down on this a little bit is I think where the Gordy Fraser initiative might have gone off a little bit is it wasn't real clear maybe to them what the community expectations were in terms of their scope of work and what they were to deliver. And I don't want to repeat that mistake with this project. We got to make sure that everybody knows exactly what we're getting.
Good point, Ed.
Can you hear me? I'd like to ask a question.
Go ahead, Libby.
If you proceed with this Michigan grant, health grant, when you talk about alternatives or when they investigate alternatives or the engineering company that is hired to investigate, will the wellness path that has been discussed and researched be one of the alternatives?
Which one is better?
Libby, I think the answer to that question is that is good information and will be shared with the thing. I don't know that it becomes its own alternative, but there may be pieces of it that might work, but it has to be looked in the greater holistic analysis of what's gonna qualify for grant funds, what isn't, what do the
Well,
community want and needs and that sort of thing.
I understand that, Ed, but I want it on the record that that is not just going to be a possibility. You wanted expect everyone to have the same expectations. My expectation is that the work that that committee has done and the input that they have had from the community will be part of the discussion with whoever contracts to do this. Yay
I
or
think that's accurate.
Yeah, that's an.
It will be
that
part
is
of
going to
the
be.
discussion.
I'm in, Libby, I'm in writing to that effect. Yes, that's one of the alternatives being considered.
Okay, I want that in writing. I want that clear to everyone that that is not because I read the contract with Gordy Frazier and we didn't get what that contract said we were to get. So I want to manage those expectations. That's as long as that's it. And I would like to see a copy of the contract once we have it or whatever we're going to submit, so that the citizens who have worked on this and taken time and effort and actually our stakeholders know what is being reviewed and analyzed for their possible spending of their money.
Rick, I've got another question for you, or Vic, and we don't know what the cost is gonna be. There's been this rather large number thrown out and a, 20% match, so that's, up to $600,000, let's say. And then we're gonna be looking for other grant funding sources. I just wanna be real clear with the Parks and Rec Committee. That's 3 times the amount of the township's annual tax revenue for the general fund. So for my, standing here 10,000 foot view without having full information, that's very unlikely to happen without significant more grant dollars or participation from the village to some level. Cause that's just not reasonable to expect when there's other priorities. So we need to make sure we're doing whatever we can throughout this process to minimize those costs, even if that potentially is maybe a little bit slightly less desirable alternative if there's huge cost savings, because the fact of the matter is, you could go down this road with no strings attached on this grant, I get it. Come up with a number that means that project is never gonna happen and that's just gonna sit on the shelf. Whereas there might have been alternatives that, maybe had not as high a level of support, but still were supported that might be less costly. So I think that's gotta be a real important aspect when we're working with this grant and the engineers, is to make sure that we can do it at a realistic price.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ed. And one of the things I mentioned is we're going to look for alternative sources during the process simultaneously to offset as much as that we are. One of the reasons why we need this grant is to get a truer cost, because right now we're just at a high level.
Okay, can I ask a question? In the presentation they made, that Joe had presented, what is it called, the wellness?
Onekama
Thank you.
Wellness Path, it's the segment in the building.
Correct. So they had mentioned that the bike path was gonna be 2.5 feet wide, is that correct?
No. In
No.
our presentation, okay, the lanes were 12-foot traffic lane, a 3-foot bike path, and a 8-foot, parking lane and a 7-foot walking path. Since we've done that meeting, I've talked directly with MDOT because the 3-foot bike lane would not fly. Okay, they said they can get it, and they do it federally, to narrow our traffic lanes from 12 feet to 11 feet. That would also help slow down the traffic. And I was talking with the safety engineer, Jessica at MDOT on this. I explained our concept to her. If you narrow the traffic lane on the north side, which is where we're proposing use, to 11 feet, you narrow the parking lane from 11 to 7 feet, you end up with a 5-foot wide bike lane, marked bike lane. She said they would prefer 6, but 5 is doable because it allows a 3-foot swing on the door, and the riders in the outer part of the bike lane, there's less of a safety issue. It can be done under them. And the sidewalk, there was mention at our presentation that they don't pay for sidewalks. She said MDOT with TAP grants does pay for sidewalks. The one in Superior Township we cited was an example where they got $428,000 just for sidewalks. And she said, what we were presenting, she said, did it have strong community support? And I'll tell you what, there are people here who were at that meeting. We had over 60 people that had very strong support. We've received it since then. And she said, this should be considered very strongly as an alternative within that. We offered to meet with the trail team to present other data that we've got. Vic sent me an email back. Thanks, Vic. He said the engagement with GFA was concluded and they consider what we were presenting, but we didn't have it. We were looking for a chance to collaborate on this and offer what we've learned. And it fits the village. Number one, the village did a SWOT analysis for their master plan. The number one demand for appearance and improvement on Main Street through the village is a continuous fixed sidewalk. And that was in our wellness plan. So,
Okay, so I'll just interject this. So this has been talked about for years, but that initiative should have started in the village. I mean, if you tell me there's grants available, that process should have started, which had started 10 years ago for the school. I mean, that's great to say it, but that needs to happen there.
Yeah, the village has not taken one finger to put sidewalks on both sides of their streets.
no, I understand that.
Right.
I mean, we
I'm
know
saying
that. I mean, I know that.
We
but-
were, the wellness path we proposed was meant to replace the multiple confusing segments of the trail going through the village. And it was, instead of going up and back and forth to the alleys, being diverted away from the business districts, it would be one continuous sidewalk. I know the history, okay?
Okay,
But we're here today, and what I've heard from MDOT in talking directly with them, it's very viable. And we wanted to sit down and talk with the trail team about this because I
they
think,
will take an application for it. It's at the very bottom list for side, that's at the very bottom according to what she's telling me, but they will take an application for a grant. It may never get funded. I don't know. The deal through the village, I don't know if they ever looked into getting a grant to do sidewalks. I can't answer that because it's not my duty to the government.
they haven't.
They haven't, okay.
But in this situation here now, we're looking at a cooperative situation between the village and the township that has the sidewalk all the way through. And at that point, I will also say that Jessica was excited about what we've been talking about. She said, we view Onekama as the gateway community and we would support that kind of thing. So there's a lot of positivity here. And again, it's a cooperative thing with village. Village people are on the and the village is not a township issue. It's a community issue of village and township making the place better through where we do our purchasing and whatever. So this is a cooperative deal. and what our conversation that Joe has had with MDOT are really supportive of what we're doing. And I'm really, really concerned with that when if we go forward with $100,000 and do these cost analysis that Rick talked about, I personally do not know what the sections look like. For me to be able to see what the cost of that would be kind of useless, because I don't know what they look like. But if I know what one section looks like that we proposed, let's get the rest of it done, and then we can find out. But just going ahead, if the team is gonna go forward and get estimates in terms of what it would like to make a judgment about whether or not we can go forward with it or not, what are the elements they're looking at?
I just have one thing I learned really from Joe. I don't think he emphasized this enough. I mean, it's clear we're gonna need a TAP grant to get anything done. I don't think anybody's aware of any other money. But the likelihood of getting that TAP grant is like directly proportional to the community support for the project.
Right.
So, I mean, if people are saying, you know, or if the village isn't on board, it's not gonna happen.
Right.
So going forward without that community support, our likelihood of getting a grant just, you know, fizzles out. The other comment I'll make, you know, Front Street in Traverse City, I understand that's not under like MDOT control, but they do have, you know, it's a 7-foot, I walked it off. It's a 7-foot parking, seems a little narrow, but it works. And they have some sections, it's a 5-foot bike path, others it's 6. And then that, you know, the street there is pretty narrow. You gotta drive pretty carefully. So, I mean, just based on that, I mean, it really looks feasible to get all those things.
The only difference then is, because the city's different, obviously, but they have stoplights every so many feet. You can't get going that fast. You have
Right.
people here going 40 miles an hour through town.
Right, so.
And I did the same thing you did. I went and measured the other day. I was in Ludington, did the same thing. Their path is 7 foot. My mirrors on the truck hang out into the
Yeah.
lane of traffic.
But it works.
But it's also downtown that they're not going 45 miles an hour through, which people.
Yeah, and I think, you know, to the point that's where the engineering is gonna have to step in and say, you know, there's gotta be other traffic control, other types of restrictions to get the traffic slowed down.
And that's what
To
the
make it a
engineer,
downtown and to make it safe.
the engineer said. Narrowing the traffic lanes helps slows traffic. Having marked crossing paths helps slow traffic. And she said, one of the things she cited that what we were proposing is feasible is because it's a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit through the village. Granted, people drive faster, but we all know that. But,
That's the exciting thing about this grant, to answer all these questions that are being discussed and brought up. It goes back to what Ed said along the way about the interaction back and forth. Cindy talked about it. We can all talk about different things, but these are actual dollars that'll help us flush out all these issues and these topics. Hopefully.
Let me ask this question, I'll ask these guys, so let's say we didn't let's just take the grant off the table. What do we do next? What's your idea, so let's say we don't get a cost estimate, what's our next step? If we don't go through this investigation, what do we do?
no, what the next step should be is really to give the public a clear picture, as clear as possible. Find out if there is strong enough support for it, because it's been mentioned, and one of the things that MDOT emphasized with me is that they require in a TAP grant very strong community support. And right now, I'll tell you, there isn't, because it's confusing. There isn't strong support because nobody knows what they're supporting. It's as clear as the paint on the wall, and that's the problem. I understand that engineering gets those numbers and everything, but what are we engineering? Never.
Well, my hope out of this would be, this just me, is that you hired a firm to do this and you come up with that in the first 2 months of the project is, okay, what does the community want as a total project? And then you get a consensus and then you price it out and see what it costs to get done. And that's what I think the grant is for. Unless I'm looking at that wrong.
Well, we just heard, Rick said 6 months out that would happen.
Well, I'm just saying,
Rick, can you clarify your comments? Because that's not what I heard. What were you referring to when you said 6 months?
When I said 6 months, you'd have everything kind of flushed out, completed along the way. So
Right, you're not
between now
saying
and
that the
then-
public input, you're not saying that the public input's gonna happen after they've been doing engineering for 6 months, correct?
No. You would have a deliverable in 6 months because you got to get to the point where you're starting to apply for
project.
shovel-ready type grants.
Okay.
So Rick, I have a question for you. The Trails Committee, this grant was given to the township, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and the township, through the Parks Committee, has said, you guys need to take the lead on this. Why don't you form a committee with some members from the township and some members from the village? So we can get good buy-in and good input and stuff. Right now, who is on this kind of ad hoc committee? You and who else?
Dave Wallace,
Okay, and then who from the village is on this?
and then from the village is Susan Holloran and Chris Forth and
Okay.
Robinson.
Okay, so who is the we that you keep talking about? Who's we? You keep saying we presented the wellness path, we did this, we did that, we did this. Who's we?
I explained it in our presentation.
Which I wasn't able to attend, so could you enlighten me?
Sure,
Okay,
myself, Dan Bering,
okay,
Dan Norbeck, Mary Jo McElroy, and Libby are all the core group in that. We've been gathering the public input for 6 months. We've been talking with the business owners, with the residents of the village and the township. Interestingly enough, at our presentation last week, 60 people, I would say 90% of them were from the township. And they were looking for answers. And so when I say we, that's our core group, but it's not just our core group. I've interviewed well over 100 residents, all the businesses in the community. And that's the information we wanted to share with them. I think we've got a good pulse on what the community wants. And Dave, go back to reading my questions and concerns 6 months ago. It was, we want to collaborate. We're getting public input. And that's where I go back to, Ed, what you read is fine, but I will tell you, residents, business owners say, nobody's talked to me directly. Nobody's given me a clear picture. Okay? And that's the piece that's missing.
What Ed read was from the Michigan Health Endowment Fund application, which is under consideration right now. It's the going forward activities.
So let me ask a few questions. And I know stuff's posted and I've read different things, but let's just have a little conversation. Rick, I don't remember when I read the grant. What time frame do we have to complete the engineering that is talked about in the grant? What time frame does the grant give us to get it done?
The grant can be extended to a 24-month period. It's for 1 year and you can extend it into 2 years.
Okay, so if we were to sign the documents by the December deadline, then we have at a minimum 12 months to use those funds, correct? And then you
Correct.
said it could be extended another 12.
Correct.
Okay. So then the reason for asking that question is we have time for process. And so I guess the question that I'm scratching my head about is why aren't we, meaning the township, the trail committee, the parks committee, the wellness group, why aren't we starting out having a discussion, seeing if we can understand what makes sense so that we're given a path to whoever gets hired as the engineering company. I'm just having a tough time understanding where the
Thank you.
roadblock
Thank
is
you.
there.
I'm having a tough time why we have two different groups.
Well,
Trying to
I really
all
want to
these
answer my
or
question.
something.
I don't understand.
Trying to
why we
keep
can't-
the boy
It needs to be one group.
needs to be one group. That's where the confusion is. We're hearing this, and nobody knows.
With representatives of all those groups forming a group,
I would still like,
form a consensus.
I would still like the question answered.
And to answer your question at the open
The
house,
question's not to you. I'm waiting for an answer for Rick, please. Or Vic or somebody. I just want to understand, but we can't start the process that way.
I'm sorry, the question was to Vic or myself, Cindy?
Yes,
And I want to get specific on the question. Why don't we do what, please?
assuming we approve this to move forward with the grant, you just told me we have 12 months to 24 months, 12 months for sure, before the money has to be spent. And in that time, of course, we have RFPs, all that kind of thing for hiring an engineer. What my question is, as I think of process, is why can't we start the process with having a kumbaya, let's all come together, get this thing hashed out, get this thing discussed, and say, you know what, here's the path that everybody feels good about. And move forward. I'm having a problem understanding why there seems to be a roadblock with that. And I'm getting frustrated, so.
Yeah, I think we have multiple groups working on the same thing. I know when we kicked off the project, we had village and township representatives on a plan, and then there's another plan. There's no reason to put it all, that we can't put it together and follow that. There's a lot of, if you decide where that path or whatever it is, simultaneously, you got to figure out some of the costs and some of the issues that you can do. Maybe I'm using the word cost wrong, but what's allowed, when I say legally, following the guidelines of MDOT, following costs, following environmental, there's other factors that you got to put in. If we decide to go from A to B, there may be external issues that don't allow you to go that way, and you might have to sidestep one way or another.
Rick,
I'm
I understand. Rick, I understand that, okay? But I think you're missing what I'm asking. And I'm
Sure.
asking you to view and Vic, because to me, you're the two lead here. I wanna, I guess the question, or maybe it's even a statement. I don't understand. I'll make it a statement. I believe the process needs to start with getting everybody on the same page, period.
It's a unique idea.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I can just blurt something out.
Sure, Dan.
Yeah, I think it's a complicated project. And so the
It's very
team,
complicated.
the team needs a skill set. You know, there's engineering skill sets, there's financial skill sets. I mean, here we have a skill set that's really good at the community outreach, really getting in touch with people. I think Dan's good at that. Mary Jo McElroy is good at that. So, you know, you meet people, those people, or, you know, that skill set has to be a part of the team in order to build that consensus. And it's not this isn't a criticism of the people leading.
And I think what you
It's
just said, the team, meaning one.
Yeah.
we're not trying to be two separate teams.
But I think,
I like Cindy's approach.
but I think organically this has grown into multiple teams, which is.
May I say something? You know, we are under, coming up, starting tonight, we're gonna be under different leadership. Prior to that, we had somebody that didn't communicate whatsoever with any of the council. So, he was his own separate little,
This is the.
the village, and I'm a trustee and I've been reelected. But And I'm also on the planning commission and the trails team. And there's been a lot of work gone into this, and that's exactly what Chris and all of us have talked about, is getting the township and the village with all their new, because we have new trustees, people that have no idea about any of this maybe, or they formed an opinion without having all the facts. So we do need to plan a joint committee and have everybody get together and then discuss it. And we know that they don't want, trail as we're presenting it, they wanted to go around the village. So I don't know if that's.
Who wants it around?
I thought you wanted.
No,
it to
that's
go
not
around.
what, that's not what the wellness.
No, the wellness
Okay.
path,
I stand corrected.
No,
I'm
I mean, to me, and I wasn't able to attend the meeting, so I was out of state.
May-
But
May I say
did-
something? I'm
if
sorry,
I
go ahead.
can
Cindy.
finish. Can I finish?
There you go, ahead.
Okay. And so I've had to look at it and I haven't studied it as much as you can tell, I'm not feeling very well either, but, I know that the night that, the consultant was here and presented everything where we had the meeting, in my mind, just listening, I'm like, okay, I think I know how to fix this. I mean, you know, how I would just listening to the input. And when I saw the information on the wellness path, I'd say with maybe some minor tweaks, it's basically what I heard also. And it makes sense to me. Now, again, I'm not an engineer, it's only my 2 cents. And it's not about my way or whatever. I believe in community engagement, I believe in collaboration. And it just seems to me that the process needs to start with getting everybody on the same page. That's all I'm asking for. And I think, I mean, for me as a trustee, I'm ready to approve moving forward with this grant. As long as the township board agrees, since basically it's coming to us, that, there's gonna be a process in place that has to occur before funds are released. And that's kind of where my head's at. I know you guys can agree with me, but that's right.
No, you'd have to come to some consensus of what you want done before you could go and get any estimates, right? I mean, that's the first
that's
step
not-
in the whole thing.
That's not what I'm hearing, and that's why I'm
Oh, okay,
finally saying.
I think that's the
why
whole,
aren't we
to
doing
me, I
this?
think that's the whole purpose of this next
Okay.
grant is to do that. Now, maybe I'm looking at it too simplistic.
I think there's two, Vic, what were you gonna say earlier?
What I was gonna say is, first of all, am I muted? I'm not muted. What I was gonna say is, I think that the composition of the trail team is, on the township part, committee members, and on the village part, village board members. And that team can get support from the community. And as Ed relayed earlier, part of our requirements for the grant is we have to have all this public input. So to me, this is pretty simple in that we decide to go to the next step. Whoever the 2 people from the village are that are on the team, if it's still Susan and someone else is added, that is between Dave, Rick, and those 2 to commit to doing what the grant says we're going to do, which is get the public involved. So I don't know why we're at this impasse point. I don't know why we're talking about specific alternatives, because that's what happens in the next step.
all I can say is, thank you, Cindy. From day one, we've asked for collaboration. Dave Wallace confronted me at the end of the original open house and said, if you cared about this, why didn't you get involved on the committee? I said, I met with Rick Almondine 3 times, expressed my concerns, very specific. Never asked to join it. I wasn't trying to push my way into it. And I would tell you, our core group with the wellness path idea is not trying to say, this is a better idea or nothing. We're saying this, I'll use Cindy's word. It makes sense. It needs some engineering, but it needs to be considered. And what I hear from Vic is You're gonna have a couple people from village council. We've got tons of input from the residents, from the business owners, and we've been asking to sit down and share. At our meeting in the closing, you can ask people, I told them, our next steps was, and we're not trying to replace the trails team. We wanted to sit down and collaborate and share all of our information with the trail team and the concept and answer their questions that they would have for us and share what we've discovered. But we were shut out.
I just want to add to that,
I who
it's
shut you
not like,
out?
it's not like two teams, it's not like another team trying to take over. It was, we were trying to find some way to get community input into the discussions. And that's what this is. We just wanted to have good community input and produce something that we found out the people in the township and village wanted, and we have the data to suggest that. So it's not another team that's trying to take over. We got organized so that the information could go forward.
I guess to reiterate, all that information goes in to come up with the right solution. I mean, Vic kind of reiterated it to a certain extent. I think that Ed said it, and maybe there's differing communications going on, but all that would go in. A question was early asked about, I think Libby asked, would all these things be considered together? I believe the answer was yes. So we may be talking about the same thing a little bit, to Vic's point. And I think at the end of the day, it's got to be a collaboration with the entire community, village, township, whatever, to make it work. And if it doesn't come together, then you don't have a solution. So to me, we're all kind of talking about the same thing, if you don't mind me saying that. And that's part of the plan going forward. If I missed something, I apologize.
It's Libby again. What I would like to do is endorse Cindy's idea. Could one member of the wellness group, and I would nominate Joe, be appointed to the trail feasibility committee? Or could we, I would feel much better, because I do believe that Joe has spearheaded community input. I do not believe, from what the meetings I've attended, that the open house in August was community input. You were seeking it after it was done. I would like to endorse Cindy's proposal, and I would like to see somebody from the wellness plan path on the feasibility and share the information that Joe and that group has collected.
It's been a lot of work done by the separate two committees.
Right.
I don't know why they can't collaborate and get together and this meeting that we're having tonight should have happened
Absolutely.
6 months ago.
Susan, did the township board, or the village council, did they formally appoint the two members to this trail committee?
It wasn't formally, it was, they reached out and asked who was on the planning commission, or who was the planning liaison, and that was me, and that's how I got on it, and I was approached. And I said, yes, I would be interested in it. I live, I walk, I'm very familiar with the village. And it's very important to me to see sidewalks on both sides and possibly bike trails too. I mean, I see people, you know, maybe not at this time of year, obviously, but one gentleman rides back and forth all day long. But, so I did want to participate in it. And we did sign, when you reached out to us, we signed, a form that went around council that we were in favor of the feasibility study. And I have to agree that the feasibility study wasn't clear. In fact, my husband attended, and you can't read anything when you put it up there, sitting here. So the information needs to be put out in a timely manner where people can dissect it and understand it on their own, and like you said, it has been online. So those that want to truly understand what we've come up with, the team so far, it's available.
So the answer, I think the question was, but the village council, did it appoint you people? Did they appoint you or you guys just volunteered to be on the committee?
No, I mean, I was appointed under Roger
Okay.
to be on the planning commission, and they reached out to the planning commission.
Okay,
Chris Ford.
So they really did-
therefore, That's how
okay.
I got on it. And Rod, who's no longer able to do anything due to his injury, he is the head of parks for us, and Rod.
Okay, so they're gonna have to reappoint.
So you're getting back to the same old thing, township, village. It should be we.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Well,
but Bob,
get
the reason
away from that township,
No,
village.
no, the reason I'm asking is, did they actually just appoint them or did they volunteer?
But there's a deeper issue here. Okay, we're gonna have a feasibility study. Right, wrong, or indifferent, quality, whatever. It's got some good information in it.
Yeah,
We're
good.
moving into the next phase of stuff. It feels like if collaboration is a really important piece of the TAP grant, that each of the governing bodies that are elected by the people ought to appoint officially members to a joint committee, whether that's, 4 township, 3 village, I don't care what that is. It's a township grant, it could be 3, whatever it is. I don't even know what the right number is. Formally go on record, so everybody in the public can say, okay, our elected officials have appointed people to be the steering committee for this, and that group collectively is gonna figure out the input that, how that needs to happen kind of underneath the grant, knowing that it's still a township grant. That should
But it's still
help.
joint. It should
It's still
help.
gonna be joint though, because it has to be, because this isn't gonna happen without both, the village and the
I
township
can
agreeing.
mention that at tonight's meeting,
Oh, your meeting's tonight?
tonight at
But I don't know what the right size of that committee is, but I think
It'll be 4 and 4.
so we need to figure it out.
And that might be.
Here, if you could bring that up and have them appoint some, because you're gonna have you have new people
I
tonight,
don't
right?
know if he's changing committees. I mean, Wayne
Okay.
is the president now.
I mean, but Rod can attend, right?
Brad can't attend, so we
Okay.
might have to defer it to another month. I mean,
Okay.
to appoint.
Well, we got time. But I think to Cindy's point, somebody's gotta figure out what this process is gonna look like.
Uh-huh.
And make sure that the we that has invested a lot of time has some input into that, because they've spent a lot of time working on it. That needs to happen. Because the TAP folks are gonna look at that really favorably if you've got business support, you've got village support, you've got township support, you have letter of support from residents, you got a letter of support from whatever it is. But what I would say is this, not everybody's gonna agree on what the quote unquote final plan is.
No.
But at some point, you gotta get along to go along, right? And the other piece of that is, Cindy, I think, and this is where I think it gets a little bit of a chicken and an egg. Everybody said, we wanna see where the trail is gonna look like so we can know whether we like it or not. But you can't determine that without some basic level of engineering. You just can't.
And I agree with that.
Yeah. So I think we need to make sure, we're not gonna engineer a thing and say, here it is, take it, whether you like it or not. But we have to do some engineering on these different options that have been talked out and thrown out to see what's even feasible and cost effective. And so I think there's gonna have to be some overlap between phase 1 and 2, so to speak, of this second
At the
grant.
present time, can you define for me section 3 and what it looks like?
No, I can't.
That's the point I'm making. You have to define the sections, then you can ask the engineering questions and you can get a better idea as to whether or not you're gonna be able to afford that. For example, Rick says something about it being $3 million. Well, some of the judgments we made, where we put together, were closer to $1 million. So it's that kind of a thing. You have to have an idea of what you're talking about.
Absolutely. And we're saying the exact same thing, Dan, just saying it different
I
way.
think we're saying the same thing, Dan, because we don't know, it could be $1 million, it could be 3. That's what this next thing would tell us. Until you do that, how we can.
Yeah, but at the present time, I wanna say this. To get to that point, there hasn't been a lot of community input. There's been a model put out there, model of 5 sections. And it hasn't had much community input, which is one of the reasons why a group of people said, let's get together and just see what the people really want and what that might look like and whether that fits the attitudes about the community. And that's what we offer. And
Dave, just to add one thing. Having people from village council, Susan's great, okay? Susan has a lot of good knowledge, experience in the village, but you didn't have, what I would recommend, Cindy, following your thing, I'd like to see my little core group. I'm the only village resident. Everybody else is a township resident, the rest of them. I'd like to see somebody from our core group, because we've got the public input, like Bob said, and have somebody from our core group at the township level and at the village level. I'll ask Wayne, I'll volunteer from the village level, because I think we've got good data. But it's your call.
I hope you'd ask the village to put you on.
I will.
Okay.
I will do that tonight.
Well, but before we do that,
Yeah, we still have to decide if we're gonna go through this. So here's the downside, which I don't think there is a downside, because I asked Rick this and then called the gal to make sure. If we go through this whole process and spend their $100,000, what are their expectations? Their expectations are to get the results of whatever we come up with for costs. No expectation if we cannot fulfill the money part of it at the end and reimburse them back. We have to have a completed project, like present, okay, here it is, like almost shovel ready, here's the cost. If we can't fund it, there's no penalty for the township. So everyone's on the same page with that, so we don't have to, because I asked that question right up front, like, we have to pay this back.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can pay for this, we just talked about, if it's 600,000 and we get no grants. I don't see the board would pull that through, okay? I just don't see that happening
Yeah,
personally.
hopefully, because the kind of stuff that all of us have read and some people have talked about. The road people and what am I trying to say?
MDOT,
Rock Commission,
TAP grant,
Yeah, the TAP grant is the one to go for, and we are, if this works out the way I think it should or would, we're gonna be positioned very, very well, because people think that the village of Onekama is a gem, and as they said, the gateway to M22. And I think there's a real possible chance that we're gonna get money for this, so I at least wanna keep hope out there. And there's some other, there are other.
oh no, Dan, I agree with you, I think there's a good chance you get the grant, it still has that cost share of whatever.
Yeah.
Then you gotta jump to the right hoop.
Well, you gotta jump through the hoops, and no, I believe we would get the TAP grant, I don't.
There's been
I
a,
don't-
there, there's been a tremendous amount of work along MDOT and them sponsoring our program and involved in it, where they're very favorable to the program. The
Yeah,
issue,
I don't want you to, I don't want you to misconstrue that, I actually think we will get a TAP grant. The funding of it for the match is what I'm speaking
We're gonna keep
to.
on looking for.
and I agree with you, that's why there needs to be simultaneously among all these other conversations, work done to get supportive funds outside to offset that 20%.
I just would
And the
like to add,
foundation is one with their.
Go ahead.
besides the fact that you think we're gonna get other, funding, we're right in the middle of our master plan.
Right,
And that won't probably be done, well, hopefully, end of February. So until that's done, the village can't apply for any grants because we didn't have a master plan. That's usually a prerequisite to any plan you put
well,
forward.
maybe they could put the sidewalks and all that in the master plan, that would be a great idea.
It's a number one demand in one thing.
It
Well, I was
is-
gonna say, if you're on a grant, you have to have it. That will exclude.
You have to have a master plan. And the SWOT analysis that we had recently was number one concern, like Joe said, was,
So they're addressing that in the new master plan?
walking
Speaking
and
to it.
biking trails. Well, we're at the SWOT analysis, so we're, you know. So we can all work together, there's no doubt, and this
Okay.
new leadership should.
Oh, here, I think we beat it to death enough, but I actually think it's better, how's that, we haven't beat it to death, it's.
so Rick, is the motion that you're asking from the township board tonight to approve accepting the grant from the Michigan Health Endowment Fund?
Yes, that's right, Ed.
And I'm gonna assume that the appropriate process would be to approve authorizing the supervisor to sign that.
So I would make a motion that the township accept the Michigan Health Endowment Fund grant and further authorize the township supervisor to execute the agreement.
Is there a second? Thank you, Bob. Any other discussion? None? I don't think it has to be roll call, does it? That's spending money, or just accept. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? None? That's carried.
Okay. I'd like a little more discussion.
Go ahead.
So I would like to see the trail committee be formally appointed, whatever that looks like, however many members from the township, village, public, whatever. But that each governing body, possibly maybe, yeah, I don't know how that looks, but I think it needs to be formally done because I think that needs to be part of the paperwork with the grant, and also when we do the TAP grant submission, we can say, look, we had this collaborative
It will be asked.
process throughout this whole grant where we're coming up with this plan that we want you to fund. So maybe that's something, Dave, that you have a conversation with Wayne on, figure it out, talk to the current trail committee, see how many additional members you want to have, and come up with a plan where we can appoint somebody at our next meeting to formally appoint that committee. Does that make sense? I think that's.
Yeah, because the village might change the committee. If you talk about it tonight, they might change who they want on there anyway.
I don't know. There's
Yeah,
no idea, but I don't see committees on their agenda.
Okay, well, you can bring it up.
So for clarification, you're not limiting the appointment to just elected officials, correct?
Well, under general law, can you, I mean, I guess we're governed under general law in the village. So I'm not totally familiar. I think we need to find out if we can appoint community members.
It's just an advisory committee. and you
It's
can
an
do-
advisory, so then you can do that.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be all
Right.
elected.
It's what Wayne is gonna propose happens on all committees and the responsibilities in the village.
Yeah, you can appoint.
So you must have had a meeting before.
Yeah, no, they can appoint. Yeah, no. They can also bring that up, you know.
I know that we can't, I'm just saying the commitment this group is that it won't just be.
Right.
That's all.
No, God, no, put other people on there. Yeah, no. I mean, right?
Well, so there's a fundamental question. It's our grant. Should we appoint the entire committee? But know that we're gonna include representatives that are suggested by the village council, or we're gonna let the village council appoint members of this committee.
Still.
It's kind of semantic. It ends up at the same spot. I don't know what the best approach is. But we need to establish, I think, how the size of that committee, and then Dave, you and Wayne figure it out, and then come back at the next meeting and we'll do it.
And I
And
believe the village should.
involve the trail committee as it stands now.
Correct. I still believe the village should appoint their own representatives. I mean,
I think that makes sense.
yeah, it does to me. It's not a unit of government. So. You don't overstep your bounds, right? To me, that's my opinion. So, okay.
Well, and they'll know who most likely would like to be involved and.
I think Rod's hurt. He can't. And I don't know how much Rod reported back to the board.
Oh, I'm sorry.
How much did Rod report back to village council? Okay.
Nothing.
It's out another 3 weeks.
Yeah, so he's gonna be, yeah, okay, so let's. All right,
We'll report back at our next meeting,
Yeah.
Mr. Supervisor.
if you go or someone go into the meeting, let me know what happens tonight.
I'll give you a call tomorrow.
Okay, do that, please. Come once. I mean, I'm here. Okay, I'm just saying. Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, Vic, for parks?
Oh yeah, I'm just getting started.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you done? Okay, thanks. Okay. Jim, I jumped right by you, didn't I?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I put you on my agenda and no. Go ahead, give this report, please.
The last week, Ted and I met with Doug Berry and his boss Casey Klein at the ramp. Casey was very surprised at how much sand was on that ramp. And she's promised that early next spring, they will do the maintenance dredge. They should have the permit by then, they'll do the maintenance dredge. So that cleans the sand off the ramp. The area about 300 feet from the ramp out to deep water will have to be done with another permit, which has already been submitted. I've talked to Liz at Core. They'll have our channel out for bids in January. They'll know who the successful contractor is by the end of February. And she's gonna call me and give me the name, and I'll give it to Casey so she wants to contract with them to do the 300 feet and whatever. Their normal dredge depth is about 4'9" from normal water level, which we don't have now. So I don't know what they're gonna finally decide to dredge at, because it's.
We don't have, what is there, there's hardly, what is there?
Isn't the water right at the long-term average?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that should be getting done. Then we talked about the asphalt. And, we've come up with a plan. I hope you will all support it. There's grants out there that townships can, and municipality can
apply for.
can apply for. And I'm looking into that. I haven't been able to get hold of Laura. I don't, the office must be closed or something. But anyway, I've got two of them, the Waterways grant and another one that Miss Patton, I can't pronounce that word, can apply for. The DNR has a form that townships or villages can fill out. And what would happen was the township would then pave the rest of the lot out there. And it would be a gift to the DNR through the grant process.
Does the
The
DNR?
DNR can't
Can't get a
apply
grant.
for it.
The township can, I think it's on their release.
And they don't have budget to do it themselves, it's not likely to happen.
We can do it. I haven't got back. Liz is supposed to be giving me the spec for their asphalt. But I got a bid from Brown, but it was only 2.5 inch. I think if we need at least 3. For $67,000. Casey told me that any launch site that they have, the minimum that they charge is 500,000. That's because of all the engineering that has to go into it. And then the paving, and with the gift process, they don't have to have the engineering. So basically, we'd be just paying for the paving. Casey had a question about runoff, but Dave and I talked about it. And there's enough area between the lake and the paving, except for right now, all the water's going right down the ramp anyway, so it doesn't.
There's no place for the runoff to, I mean, the runoff is all naturally drained towards you can't run it backwards.
Right.
There is no.
So Jim, so if I hear you right, you're saying, and I saw the form that the gift to the DNR, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
The township could choose to pay for that as a public improvement and gift it to the DNR.
Right.
Or the township could apply for a Waters Way grant, which are 50-50 matching grants. Get that, there's probably some hoops and strings attached to that,
And still gift it.
and then gift it to the DNR.
Right.
And then it becomes the DNR's issue to maintain.
Right.
Is there any appetite from the DNR, regardless of what direction this may or may not go, to participate at all? Or if they have any participation, then they drive the costs up like you just said?
That's what, right.
Okay,
If they do have any participation, then they've got to have the engineering.
so it doesn't make sense to me that they would let a township come and pave their asset without having oversight and engineering drawing. That just doesn't make sense to
They
me.
kind of lease it to us for it's not really a lease, but
It's a gift acceptance form. is what I
Well, they
have.
give a sort of a temporary lease for the paving and
To be able to do it.
then
But I would think we would at least want a local engineering firm to look at it and at least see if there's any subgrade that needs to happen, so it does drain properly. You don't wanna pave it and have it not drain.
what happened at the paving for the kayak block.
And that was all done through the DNR trust fund grant, and it was engineered by Spicer Group.
What was?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I,
How much asphalt's there?
maybe a third of the parking lot, if that.
Yeah, that much.
I think it was 4 inches.
No,
Is
how
it-
much, how big an area?
Are you talking about thickness or?
Yeah, thickness.
Oh, I don't know. We could look that up and see.
I'd like to know, because then we could match it.
Why don't you spend, we need more, a little bit more information, I think, but
If you can find out the thickness that the DNR would
That's
require,
what I'm, you know,
I'm happy to talk to Spicer Group and see what they would charge to kind of just do some very basic engineering to make sure it's gonna drain properly. And then we can decide if that's something that we want to pursue. Cause I think that is used a lot. It's kind of a lot of people from out of the town, a lot of people from in town use it. And it can be a real mess at times.
so we have,
And I'd like to see it paved, frankly, but
this year was probably the best year we've had as far as holes out there.
yeah,
But
well, it wasn't as much rain and
It wasn't, right.
but it wasn't any less busy. I was down there multiple times when that was full or overflowing
Oh, yeah.
for parking. So,
Yeah. And then I got one other thing. The Corps was out yesterday and did the soundings on the
channel,
channel.
and
From the south pier head to the north, it's just about all red, which means it's under what the acceptable depth should be. All the way from the wave attenuator on the north side back to the east is all
too
red.
shallow.
So, yeah. So. And they won't be able to get in here till sometime after June because of the fish breeding, so.
I'm just glad they're doing it. It used to be a fight to even to get them to come down and dredge it, so.
Well,
The fact that they freed
hopefully
up that
we
funding.
keep our good relationship with the Corps. So, good.
Okay.
One other thing that came up today. Chuck May's still around. He had a call from, I think it's probably Chris Brown and Pentwater. Want to know where our coalition group was. And he kind of referred him to me, and so far Chris hasn't called me.
Okay.
But I tried getting a hold of Matt again, he won't return my calls, so. I don't know,
Matt Rosinski.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I don't know, Chuck and I are gonna have to have another meeting, see what we're gonna do. Cause Pentwater has got a problem about every year, so. I think 2 years ago, they paid it themselves to get changed, they dredge. So. Okay, we don't wanna get into that.
Well, the water had to have dropped, because I drove through Arcadia yesterday, that whole marsh area down there is bare ground
Yeah.
on the east side of the road. You come down the bridge, across the hill, down the hill, there's no water,
Well,
and that had water 2 weeks ago.
I think,
Okay. Anything else?
Seconds to get something out of my office.
Also, if anybody's in need of a sugar buzz, feel free to help me.
We're gonna take a 5-minute, just kind of, whatever, going over there. How about that?
They're
Since
shortbread,
that's getting
they're
out.
shortbread cookies.
Take a 5-minute
frosting
kind of
chocolate.
pause after that.
And the others are like cake tops, now those. The only thing I'll tell you, look at the flavor on the bottom, because there's other flavors. And it may be hard to eat without cutting it. Just because it's so.
one bite.
That's a challenge. So you can take a cookie now and then take that home. Silly. Look at that.
Salted caramel, that's the first one I picked up.
So Cindy, where did you acquire all these sweet treats?
That's why I was late, I was.
That answers that
So,
question.
it's like, that really isn't a lie. I mean, I was teasing. I have a friend, Connie Watson,
Okay.
who made, she used to be a culinary teacher for West Shore. And, she decided to go out on business on her own, so her company is Bake My Day.
Oh,
Gourmet.
they're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool, it's not a regular like sugar cookie, it's shortbread.
Yeah,
And then she uses chocolate stuff frosting.
I like it. I love shortbread. It's not a sweet.
Right.
Try one, Bob.
I haven't had dinner yet.
Hey, and don't, I mean, take one home.
Like it's short, eat dessert before dinner.
It might be hard to break through.
Oh, I got
They
it.
are
Oh, I'm there. I'm there. Don't worry. I got that one.
Great. And don't be shy, take one home or a different thing home.
Every time I go out and I see a low, I see you.
Happy fall, happy Thanksgiving, happy.
Thank you, thank you.
We'll give you the extra energy for the next meeting. Yeah.
Now, are you the developer of your, defining these numbers, you cook them?
A friend of mine, Connie Watson,
Oh, okay.
she owns Bake My Day. She basically works out of her home.
Oh, okay.
So she does my cookies. for
Make
me.
my what? What is it?
Bake My Day.
She's in Manistee. Yeah, yeah. You guys always have breaks? Summer breaks? I'll come to more meetings.
That's a good cookie. I don't even care if it was made in a certified stainless steel. Kitchen or not, that good.
She also does good glue that actually tastes decent.
Oh, really?
I didn't order.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I know, you got the same one, you went right for the hockey puck. It's good.
No sugar for me.
Oh,
No sugar.
well.
Getting off the ceiling.
That's right.
I normally don't.
That's right.
She's so.
Personal homemade.
She's so. No, I don't think so.
But I won't be able to sleep tonight.
Unbelievable.
They want some breakfast. Bob.
Okay.
Good live on me.
Yeah, I don't think it's the same person.
In your coffee and your sugar, you'll be like.
Yeah, no sugar. Oh,
I'm on the side.
Yeah, just telling you, I'm not going home with those, so.
Across the street.
Take the spouses, the kids,
All decorated.
Paul, keep in the office.
I think of you.
You got the EMS coming in here for training and children.
Well, you came. You were outside.
Really good.
Yes, thank you, you were good.
Ouch.
No, thank you.
I butter. Maybe this will speed you up a little bit. Speed us all up.
Oh, that just took a lot of time.
Yeah, it does.
All right. Okay, ready for adjournment almost.
I met you.
I think we skipped over and didn't get to this one yet. No, yeah, but that was because it was just there, but that was by accident. Approved purchase of storage building, so let's move on to. There's a couple bids, I got a bid, Bob had got a bid. Depending on how fancy you wanna get, I put the bid from the one in Manistee on your desk that day.
That's right, you're on the
Okay, oh, there it goes. That does not have steel siding, that has wood siding. It would have to be, finished. The other one I priced out through the Amish guy is, $2,000. No, $3,000 more. So I would say you'd have to put some kind of stain on this every couple of years.
And which one? The one that's in our packet?
Yes. But it's cheaper. I think it's actually it's $4,000 less.
So if they were to set this in place, it would be unpainted, so you can.
No, it would be stained.
Whatever color we told it, we just have to maintain it down the road.
Really, I'll go back to my original thought,
Which is,
we should build a pole barn on some of the property we have offsite. We need a bigger pole.
Ditto.
We need,
instead of, I don't know.
instead of having a patch job
Okay,
for 10 grand, let's step up and get a pole barn. You're gonna, it's gonna be full. This thing's gonna be full. Already. I haven't even got it.
That's a concern I have too.
We own property up the yin yang, might have to drive it out cemetery to do it, but. I think it's about time you start.
can I put you on that committee?
No, okay.
So Matt, how'd you like to get on this
Pole
committee?
barn committee?
We're talking, no, well, here, we need to investigate it, right? So Matt,
Job.
yeah, he needs a job. Okay, so we're gonna assign Matt to look into getting.
No, it's just a suggestion.
No, I agree. I'm not disagreeing.
I don't think I ever talked about location, but I agree with you. My concern when I looked at this a long time ago is that gonna be big enough for
Anywhere
the
near,
future? Because
you got enough stuff in the fire department to put in a 40 by 80 pole barn right now. Let alone parks and Rec.
So the consensus that we're gonna go the other direction, that's what I wanna ask for the board. Yes, look towards getting something different other than the portable.
Incorporate it into the next budget and see
Yes.
what the needs are.
Yeah,
Yep.
I didn't.
Capital improvement.
okay,
That's fine, the only issue is they dropped off those.
all here.
Those
Not gonna hurt
plastic things, but they're okay to be.
Vic, is that okay? And Vic, are you still on there?
Yeah. Hopefully leave my-
But don't we
Yes, sir.
still even,
I have a question. Do those Moby mats, can they sit out back for the winter or is that gonna hurt them? They sit outside all summer.
They can sit outside. They can sit outside.
Okay, thank.
and or could that be stored with the village with that?
That's too small of a space.
Okay.
For what they were gonna say.
Okay.
Thank you.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
I'm currently storing Moby mats from Portage Lake Resort Corporation. I have space available.
Oh, yeah.
Free. They need to go.
There we go.
I have,
That's, they got the cloth mat.
Yeah, exactly. There they roll up. I think they're similar.
They have those in that lane rolled up in the porta john. Vault trailer, vault dog.
So when
We
you
don't
need
need
inside, I
no-
can.
Okay. So then I'm moving on. We're gonna move on with the corporate. Yes, to the next budget. Appoint township board representatives for committees.
so I added this on, right now we have board representatives on planning. Parks. I don't think we have one on harbor. Then we have, we do have it on invasive species. Invasive species is Cindy. Planning commission is Cindy. Right now I'm on parks. I don't think we have one on harbor. That's the only four we have, right? And I'm not really, I like parks. I'll still be engaged in parks. I just can't make Friday morning meetings very well. It doesn't really work for me. So, Mr. Keefe, I didn't know if you might be interested in stepping up. and being-
Friday mornings are free, just happen to be.
Did you discuss this the other time?
No, I just thought he might be a logical,
The other thing is road, I cover road.
we had a road commission there.
And liquor. Gotta appoint somebody to do liquor.
Or you can still do liquor till you're done.
Add. I know you don't need anything added, but does the road commission meeting work with you? Just because you've got, oh no, okay,
What is it? It's in the morning, right?
9 or 10.
10 o'clock in the
Okay.
morning.
just because you have so much
I'm
experience.
happy, I'm happy to interface with the road commission, and I know Dave knows them pretty well. I just can't, I'm not gonna be able to attend the meetings at all. And I don't know if that's critical as much as it is having a good open communication line with them.
Probably not now, is important as it was before.
Right.
Cause I was up there and saw it today.
It makes a difference if somebody's sitting there.
It does make a
Whether
difference.
you participate or not, if somebody's sitting there from the, Onekama to get up. It makes a difference.
I don't know that I could commit to be to all of them, but I'd be happy to try to cover.
I can go to some, I just can't go to all of them. We could figure that out on a monthly basis.
If you went to
maybe.
some, it's, you're there.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna spend a lot of money with them again next year. Probably a good idea to be there and be seen. So I'm gonna only say this because I met Brad today. He's gonna come to our next meeting next month and present the seal coat stuff and how many miles and costs and.
Does he have the engineering cost estimate? Well, that we're still.
Yes,
We're probably high on the list right now.
we are. Okay.
So do we have all committees covered then or no?
We don't have the harbor commission, but I don't know that we've ever had.
We've never had a representative on the harbor.
I think the bylaws say we're supposed to. And speaking of bylaws, I forgot to do the amendment, but quick one, and I'll put that on the December agenda.
When do they meet?
Jim Long. I don't know, Thursdays?
Every.
No,
Monthly?
not very.
I don't know that they
It's
meet.
during another meeting.
You know, it's not, Harbor, they have their own meetings.
Cause they end up in.
So am I gonna stay on planning commission and invasive then?
If you would,
Okay, I just wanna make sure.
We responded pretty quick to that.
Yeah, I'll do Harbor, I'll be Harbor and Watershed. Kind of, we have Harbor for this.
They do, they actually really do.
The same time as what meeting?
they're not on there.
Oh,
Go ahead, Tom.
You can. I thought it was a Thursday or Friday, so.
yeah, they end up going in the fire, cause we double.
Cause the meeting doubled up.
Yeah.
Oh, why don't we deal with that at the next?
We'll deal with that in the next meeting, okay. Other than that, that's it? Okay,
So,
go ahead.
I think I remember an issue with this. Do we need to make a motion to make those appointments?
I think we probably should, since it's a new board. I'll make a motion that we designate the following township board member representatives of various boards and commissions. Invasive species, Cindy, planning commission, Cindy, parks, Mr. Kiefer, Harbor, Mr. Kiefer. Road commission will be determined on a week by, or month by month basis, depending on who can make it. And we're gonna defer the liquor inspection until the December meeting, or until Bobby gets.
Until Bob is,
No longer able to do that.
okay.
No longer.
I'm not supposed to, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bob. Is there any discussion? None being heard, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Okay, I'm moving on to unfinished business. Mr. DeVoe's compliance order. Mr. DeVoe hasn't put his fence up. I was out there again the other day. He's cleaned up most of the stuff that was in the road and moved that back out of there, but the boats are still visible from the road. I've been trying to find a contractor who would come and put posts in for us, put the fence up, which is about impossible to find right now, because they're all trying to get buttoned up for winter.
I'm okay if it goes in first thing in the spring, we just have to get somebody to do it, but
Well, I'll find someone to do it. We're gonna have to do it because I don't see him completing it and
don't we still have to go inventory them? Do we need to just hire somebody to do that? Maybe we could get the compliance guy from the county if we paid him a little
I
extra.
think we could probably hire the compliance individual from the county to go do that. And just line up a contractor and give them, if it's not done by April, whatever, 15th, just have the contractor go and put the fence up and put the
I'd like to have that.
spelled out and
Well, I mean, we need to get a contractor that says, yes, I can come in April 15th and do it. If it's not done, I have a price, so we'll all pre-approved. But I sent you that form that I had done up for the inventory, so you want me to call Katie and find out what they would charge to do that?
see if that guy would do it. I went out there, looked at the cars, so most of the cars.
You're
have
still
plates on.
gonna have to be there.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go,
Right, but I think the two of you, if you wanted to go out that would be good. So I'll find out.
Set his expense too.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have to put it on his taxes. I don't know,
He won't pay it.
Well, it becomes a lien, so if
it
he
just
doesn't
becomes
pay
a
it.
lien, I mean,
But
that's,
then it's on his tax lien.
Mhm. That's the only way you can do
Right.
it. It's in the compliance, it's in the order that we were gonna do that. Good. Long time, I mean, that was written out
And
This has been going on for years.
years, yeah, years. Long time. So that was written in the compliance order, he agreed to all that, so I don't have to go back to court on any of that, so.
So Cindy, didn't you send a company that maybe we could, thought I saw an email from you that said, here's a company that might.
Do the work.
fencing Company or something?
But yeah, but that's the fence company up there, we're not putting that fence in, we're putting solid wood,
Oh, that's
so you
right.
can't see through it, it was perfect fence.
Okay, they don't do wooden ones?
And I need 4x4 posts that they ordered in.
I mean, if we checked with not necessarily a fencing company. but
No, just a
somebody
contractor.
like,
Anybody,
and yeah, any local,
contractor, try to hire one.
well, if you're doing it for April, you might be able to.
Now, yeah, for April, I couldn't do it this fall, or I'm trying to button all the projects up for the fall, so I don't think it'd be a problem finding one. Then I can do that. Is that all right? With the consensus?
Yeah.
Okay,
Get her done.
okay. Bernard dock violation, they put the dock out, but the boat lift is on as of 3 days ago, the boat lift is still on the road end.
Is it the mooring ball still directly
The
out?
mooring ball is still in the water.
Yeah, that's a problem too.
So they're still in violation of the road end ordinance. I had Pat from Spicer come out and recertify the survey markers. On Friday, the road commission is going to put 2 markers down by the water to mark the road end. Right where the stakes are before they disappear, and then we have markers out by the road. It starts there and goes all the way in, but there's stakes by the water, but there aren't any markers, so we'll put the public access markers. I'm gonna take a picture after that's done, and then I'm going to send a, ticket. Tom's already helped me kind of get it filled out, and I'm gonna send a violation to Mr. Bernard.
That's Pat with GPS markers on the print
Ordinance.
coordinates.
Oh. I didn't know, okay.
So that process will have to play itself out, right?
So that process is, yeah, you're gonna get a civil infraction ticket, which goes to court. And that process will probably end up. The whole process will end up in court.
So at some point. We have the ability under the ordinance to rescind the permission to put that back out.
Absolutely.
I think that needs to be on the table. They've known for a long time that they need to comply and they're just not doing it. They're frankly thumbing their nose at the township in my opinion.
Well, I guess then we'll do this. Tom wanted. The only reason I'm doing the markers right now, Tom wanted those markers in place so you could essentially see.
Sure.
Even though the survey stakes are there, but they're low to the ground, and this is more defined, and so that's the reason for all that, so. I contacted the road commission, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, and he's finally caught up enough, I think, to do it tomorrow or Friday.
So,
And we still have a bunch of those in my. If we wanna mark something else, just so everyone knows, if you see something you think we should get marked, I think there's 14 of them.
so is the path forward to issue the citation or are we gonna,
No.
and see how no, we're not gonna do that. then?
Issue the citation,
And then see what happens.
and then see where we end up. We're gonna end up in court over it, I'm sure they're
So
gonna.
they think that even though, okay, they
I
have
don't
a
know.
difference of opinion that they have a legal right to have that dock there?
Yeah. According to their attorney. Okay,
Can we put the scoreboard on the wall?
okay. Hawk fence. So here, and I don't know where that's at as of today, because I didn't ask. Mr. Huck moved the fence back even with, Dan might know, because he drives by it. You pay attention by chance?
Yes, I do.
Is it even with his house?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So it has been moved back to be even with the front of his house, which is in violation of when we went to court, what we agreed upon and what he agreed upon, which is about 12 foot. I think it's 10 or 12 foot back farther. Katie called me, they sent a letter, told me we're still in violation of the court case. I told her to notify the road commission, because it's essentially their setback area, right, that we defended. And Brad was in court that day and said, you know, you guys put the ball in their court. It's up to you guys. I don't want to spend another dime on this issue, because we're trying to enforce something that if the road commission doesn't enforce it, what's the sense of us enforcing it? It's their setback. The house is already within the setback area of the road because it was built, I don't know, 100 years ago, whatever.
And that fence moved back to the front edge of the house is further back from the road than the fence on the adjacent property now, correct, or similar to it?
Yeah, I can't
The
answer.
property just to the property just to the west of that house has a fence that's closer to the road now than the reset fence, or on the same line.
I don't know, it might be
I
close.
can tell you. It's
Yeah, I
close-
mean-
It's closer to the road.
The house fence moved.
No.
No, the other one.
Oh, but that used to be the Norbeck guy.
Okay.
And Susie fence. I mean, that fence was probably there before the road was.
Yeah.
Which-
Yeah, so from a fairness standpoint, which I know isn't a legal standard,
It's the same.
it's similar, correct. Though my only concern, I'm willing to let this go if the road commission doesn't care, because it's really their issue, but it's not consistent with our zoning ordinance, and I don't want people to point to that and say, look, you didn't enforce that on them. That's my only concern.
Well, and to that point, I think you go back to planning, and you get back into that ordinance, and in fact, if the road commission is not gonna stand behind their own setback, right? Then we shouldn't enforce their setback if they don't. I mean, to what end? Really, right? I mean, I hate to say that, but
Yeah, I'd be curious what Tom says, but I tend to agree with you, to a degree. That's, you know,
I don't wanna enforce something that they're not gonna enforce, and we're gonna pay the bill on it every time, and then they choose not to enforce it, like. But I don't know what he's gonna do, and I didn't ask him. We can ask that next month if they haven't addressed it. But I think I agree. It's the same as the neighbor's fence now. It's really treated all the same kind of.
Well, I mean, from a perception of reasonableness, its current location, it seems reasonable.
I agree. I think having to move it all the way back 3/4 of the width of our house is just on the face of it absurd.
But here's what happens.
You get into all these legal issues in
Right.
terms of the history of that road, what was there first, it gets complicated.
It's very
Quick,
complicated.
and I can't imagine the road commission really wants to spend money.
And we've already spent close to 10 grand.
You spend 10 grand. That's why I'm not gonna do, it's stupid. So either change the ordinance or something, because it doesn't make sense to get in that again, right? And it's gonna come up because there's a bunch of these issues in the township like that, where they have encroached, there's encroachments in roads all over. I mean, here, right? All over, Portage Point, I mean, all over. It just is, because nobody knew where the lot was years ago. Doesn't matter.
So we should have the zoning ordinance at least.
I think someone should look at this. I think so, personally. Because it's setbacks, because you come here to get that, and then we're supposed to enforce a setback, and no one else is gonna enforce it. It's not even our setback.
I agree. I think the planning commission should take a good hard look at that, with, you know, even if we gotta pay Tom a little bit to make sure it works. Right.
Okay.
Maybe get a statement from the road commission saying. Do you?
Well, we can ask Brad next month. They'll be here.
Okay, so you want, so you.
They won't make a statement.
They're all.
They shouldn't.
So
They
the
should just let
planning
it be.
commission should review setbacks in the zoning ordinance.
Well, at least for fences.
At least for fences.
Tackle the fence first.
But here's another issue, just so you know. So he's applying for another permit to put another fence up, okay? They can't issue him a permit, a land use permit, because he's in violation. Just saying. So he's got an application in for a fence application to do it. They can't issue it to him because he's in violation, and says you can't be issued a permit if you're in violation of the ordinance, right? Makes sense. I'm just, That's somebody else's bailiwick, not mine. Okay, beat that to death. Portage Lake, Bible Camp, whatever, road vacation supplemental agreement.
So somebody, I don't remember how we left it, was going to draft an agreement for that access. You know, that he was gonna allow,
And I think it was Richard, right?
Richard, that's what I was gonna say.
we probably just need to follow up with Richard, I guess.
Okay, I can call him tomorrow, that's fine.
It seemed him being out of the country was the whole.
Oh, right, I forgot he had been traveling.
Yeah, he was overseas, okay. Hail insurance.
Yeah, we have it.
Okay, so if they,
We fixed the roof, finally.
the roof is done,
The windows that was blown out is fully replaced.
okay,
And the mini splits and heat pumps have all been replaced, ceiling units included. The only thing we have left is siding. And they're negotiating between the contractor and the adjuster, insurance adjuster right now. As of today.
so we're gonna be short on what they're gonna do for siding because it didn't get the whole building,
We got,
3 sides.
one here, this side, that side, the back, and the other side by the driveway.
Will be covered,
Will
but
be
then
covered.
it won't match what's left on the facade on the
It'll
front.
be,
Or,
it won't match at all. It'll be similar, but not,
The steel's not the same pattern?
no,
no, it's faded too,
Oh,
it's totally different,
no, still's completely, well, no, it's still gonna have ridges in it,
but it doesn't
but
look,
not that much definition. They don't make that anymore.
don't make anymore. So the downside is we'll have to
Well,
redo that,
was
pay for that.
one bid. The other bid that originally got mixed and they put it all in one piece was to finish the rest of the building. So make it look the same.
Well, he put it all in one bid, and then the adjuster looked at it and said, well, the front of the building's not damaged. He's right, it's not. But the contractor included it in the estimate, like, well, since I'm doing this, we gotta do that to match it, so you'll pay for that one. No, they won't.
Yesterday, I met with a contractor and got that all ironed out. And so now he's gonna
separate, right?
the damage, hail damage is covered by insurance. They're within a stone's throw of negotiating and that'll be taken care of pretty close. I don't know the rest of it,
Well, we don't have the bill or estimate for our part of it yet,
we
right?
don't have that,
Okay, so that's the difference. We'll have to,
and it's gonna look a little different. The color won't be exactly that because they can't get it without painting it, and that's an extra cost. But they can get a standard color that's close to this. So instead of having what you have now with the little fake brick out in the front, you're gonna have steel siding. I think it's a gray color, but it's not obtrusive. And black trim.
well, we can pick out what we want. We can also change the color.
I mean, if we get red or whatever.
Red, let's say it's red for the fire department. And gray for this.
Why can't we just paint, even though the metal looks a little different, just paint, but to match the color and color.
Tell
Oh, a lot of people obviously had a lot of hail damage. My mom got all the siding on her house replaced, same color,
Uh-huh.
even though it wasn't all damaged.
Some do.
Yeah, just use the phrase, tell the insurance company you're gonna call a public adjuster. And they'll say, oh, and they'll give you a color match all the way around.
I was wondering about that, because I know that I've had claims before where it's been like, no, this doesn't match now, so fix that.
There's no color match in Michigan, I was told, officially, but.
You know,
Well,
here's
there's one way.
what they'll do, Dan, they won't put new metal, they'll paint it. That's what they wanna do.
That-
They'll paint the same color and then you got a different style metal. I know.
Saying public adjusters, the magic word.
Okay, well, I'll use it. Public
And say
adjuster.
it with force. Don't be going, oh, we're gonna cut this.
So how does that issue get resolved? And Dave and Bob, you wanna talk to whoever and we'll just see where, I don't wanna, cause I mean, the steel on the front and the side of the building is gonna cost 20-30 grand.
At least.
Yeah, 25.
For perfectly good steel that can be painted. I doesn't make sense.
Well, you wouldn't have to paint this. I mean, technically, if you wanted to make it look, You just have to paint the facade in the front by the fire hall, I guess, really. If you don't care about it going around the corner. You know, let's just say they only pay to fix around the corner, so that side is one thing, and going this way is a different, off color a little bit.
Yeah, that wouldn't matter.
Wouldn't matter.
Would be the fire door entrance. Where
That's where the worst part would
where
be.
the truck doors are.
That's not as much.
You guys-
Oh, God, no. No, that's practically nothing. Let's just see what they come up with to fix the rest of that first.
You want to look nuts.
Well, I think.
I think there's an argument.
Yeah.
It would
Well,
look.
say public
it would
adjuster.
look-
It's serious. There's one in Traverse City. The business.
Okay,
Confirm, David.
cost recovery, we haven't done anything on that. I
Cost
don't know if we-
recovery, I'm gonna tell you right now.
Take it off.
Yes.
Okay, we can,
Rob and I had a big discussion. We're gonna use the cost recovery that we have on the ordinance right now,
okay,
not change any,
okay,
and let her rip with that and see what happens.
okay.
So that you can take off of it. You
I am, I'm take it off for
don't
next
wanna
month.
see it anymore.
Okay, recycling, we still need to talk about that next month.
I sent an email to Tom and I have heard crickets. I don't know if he's out of town, not feeling well, haven't gotten a response.
There's a whole big thing going on in the state about recycling.
Well, the crux of this though is I believe, and I think Cindy believes that the addendum that we signed pushes the need to sign a whole new agreement out into next year.
Until we get,
And the county didn't seem to think that, but then they have been
Yeah,
quiet
they
too.
signed it.
well, I talked to her the other day and she wants us to sign it. I said, my board's on. She, well, what's wrong? I said, I don't know. They just don't like the word.
I feel like the resolution potentially for this is, one, we're not gonna deal with it in 24, we'll deal with it in 25. Is to offer, we can rewrite the new interlocal agreement, but just offer to rent that property for a little bit of money, and we can pay for it. I think we can probably up that assessment a little bit and cover that, or we can pay it out of general fund, rather see it come out of the assessment.
Okay,
But that way the county doesn't feel like we're taking advantage of them, and I think that's a win-win, but they may not agree to, but they're not using the property anyway, so.
you know,
It's a vacant field.
There's gonna be something in the state come up that's gonna change recycling, period.
well, it might be, and they talked to the road commission about leasing property from the road commission that's where they're gonna put the recycle center. They applied for another grant.
Okay.
You talked to the road commission, got a commitment from them,
Place to put it.
and they're gonna put it up there. So that's already in the works.
Okay, so I think we've got a path to just let this kind of lie, make everybody feel good about it till they get some more direction, but I'd like Tom to respond.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll email them again tomorrow if you would.
I'll bump them again, I just.
Recycling, the gal across the streets called me a few times. Last time when the wind blew 50 miles an hour, it blew papers over into her yard.
Oh,
Well, I know. So if it sits there and it ends up being there any length of time, we're probably gonna have to put a fence
I'm
up.
okay with that.
I'm
Okay,
okay with that.
or move it.
Just don't put it someplace where you gotta plow snow.
We gotta plow snow there.
Well, you gotta put snow someplace else then. You only got a certain amount of places you can put snow.
Over there, there's plenty of room.
We do need to get somebody, that to plow that though, because we agreed to that we keep it clear.
Yeah, last year I had Brett plowed out
Okay.
where, that one was at the
Well, you gotta get
fairground.
rid of those damn signs too.
They were supposed to come and get them, but she's never showed up for them.
Don't just tell her the next time you see them, we'll be over there under the trailers.
Okay. One can do that. Park and fire. Zoning administrator, we got a report, didn't we, for them?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and a violation report. Some of the
Yes,
violations have
we
been
saw
clarified. Cleared up. I still have like, the ones down by you. I think are still open. Right?
Well,
Or is it getting better? I have.
I'm not sure I agree with the way the county is interpreting our zoning ordinance and our blight ordinance for certain properties. I understand the need to work with the property owners. I get it. I'm in favor of that. I know there's some extenuating circumstances there. But there's some of it where it's like, okay, well, they agreed to do this. And now we're just really not gonna keep monitoring that. There needs to be, I think,
The
steady
timeline.
progress on that. And it's a fine line. I think you have to work with the property owners. I'm not trying to be the blight
No.
guy, but some of it gets a little bit, okay, so I have building materials stored on my property. go ahead and tarp it, and that's okay, you can store it there now. And they've been there for 18 months. So it's stuff like that, you know, there's extra cars, and it's not just that property, there's other properties, so. Yes, I think, I like the enforcement report, I think the new guy's doing a better job. I think that's all progress with the county's contract, but I still don't feel like they're seeing stuff through to completion. And I also don't feel like on land use permits, that they're around here enough, and checking that enough to see when things are deviating from either the permitted use or the timing when stuff is supposed to get done or what have you. And I've had that concern since day one.
To address that, I've been having conversations weekly or monthly about, you need to check, and I think that's through everyone's head that she's doing that now.
Okay.
She's showing up more regularly and coming back and rechecking, not just, you know, it's okay and outside.
Well, if that's happening, then that's great.
So, and I'm basing that on telling her about some stuff and then a week later here that, yeah, they went out there and went.
That's good.
So,
That's progress.
some progress, yeah. Okay. Planning commission,
Meeting canceled.
okay.
Well, Cindy, you heard Libby on the meeting earlier,
Bring that up myself.
and I asked Dave Wallace at least 3 months ago to move that towards resolution, and at least if there's not gonna be a new permit issued because of whatever reasons, lawsuit, Bob doesn't know what he wants to do, whatever, we need to review the current permit as opposed to what's the conditions on the ground and get resolution on that. So, but I haven't heard back from Dave.
I agree.
Okay.
So I will take it upon myself to deal with getting that on our agenda. for planning commission.
Thank you.
Very good. Anything else on that? No meeting, so, okay. Roads, nobody went, other than talking about he's gonna be here next month. Do we have anything else, Bob? You didn't go to the meeting, did you?
No, I didn't go.
I'm gonna start working on the budget, and so if he's got engineering estimates on Christensen, 11 Mile and the other projects, then they'll have those next month. Okay, perfect.
Just because you said, this is a little bit off, but because you said you're working on the budget, I'm assuming like invasive species should provide numbers.
They're gonna have a guess. We're probably gonna lower the amount. We've got a lot of money in there.
Yeah, yes, they should probably kind of look at that, and we will have to put the process together and talk about it next
Okay.
month.
Depending on how much they're gonna treat, but we've got enough money probably, but we may not have to collect.
You mean you're,
I think we're gonna.
We adjust it every year,
Yeah, but I think we do have. some
you're collecting too much money for what you're using.
right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, but we still got time left to use it up. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's too late to change it for this winter,
I know.
but we need to look at it moving forward.
Moving forward, we
You
need to
mean you should reduce something? That'll be a first.
No, we've reduced it a
Government
lot.
doesn't reduce taxes.
We do it all the time. We haven't this reduced it. It
I
started
love-
way higher.
I love the way you talk.
No, I'm just telling you. Okay, assessor. Just working on normal stuff in the cycle, which is just compiling sales, this, that, doing rechecks and new construction. And that's it. The only report I got for that. So if you're out, we're out and about, you'll see me measuring. You would have new construction. Harbor Commission, already had to report evasive. We have a meeting.
The only thing going on with invasive, we had a meeting Monday night, unfortunately did not have quorum. So we're scheduling a special meeting for December 2nd, I believe. I haven't confirmed that yet. But we are, developing the RFP for services next year. And because that's kind of a big issue, that's why we're having a special meeting, because we just didn't get a lot of input from committee members.
Okay. And they might have a idea about amount of treatment going into next year anyways. Maybe they'll have a review. We get an estimate about what she could forecast just reasonably. I don't know how many years are left on that. You know?
I actually looked it up.
6?
Yeah, I had it, I don't know off the top of my head, but I sent it to Cindy and I got it.
Yeah, and I actually
Okay.
mentioned it at a meeting, but I don't remember.
Okay.
Just say 7.
Okay, well, we'll find that. Okay. Correspondence then, new officials training.
So So how do we sign up?
This,
Little brochure here someplace, somebody had it.
I know, it's great.
There it is, right there.
so is it something, Matt, did you look at that? Is it something you would be
It's
interested?
something that they both should have
And
done.
it's at Crystal Mountains, so I mean, the closest one, which should be really convenient.
I don't know what.
State website, maybe?
It doesn't have what the date.
It's on
is.
our website. Doesn't have the date?
Well, it does, it cut it off when I scanned it. Something,
Go up above there. see if it has enough.
Isn't it December 19th or maybe that?
it's right here, just, I can't. not
Cut the
sure.
date off.
It's in the.
We've got a copy of it here someplace. Yeah, you can,
There you go.
there you go.
December 19th.
You give sending that brochure, P and Mac, and decide when they want, just let us know and we'll be paid up and.
Yeah, I'm home.
That's drinks in a room and dinner. and-
No. That's where.
Use of the, use of the pool.
Yeah. Well, wait a minute, if we're doing that, let me check the other locations.
A dance class.
heard dancing.
I didn't say dancing.
Oh, they're all in Michigan.
Yeah, well, yeah, we are in Michigan.
Nothing
There's
into,
nothing
nothing
in-
into
I'll
eating.
make
No.
a-
Only realtors and school boards do
David,
that.
that's true. David, I'll make a motion, we pay the bill.
Okay. Is there a second?
Support.
Anything, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, that's carried. Public comment.
Question, December board of review, is it scheduled for the 10th?
Oh,
It's not, it's.
not on the website yet?
No, there's nothing indicated,
Yeah, it should be. It's sent by the state, so
yeah.
I'll make sure it gets on there.
I do have one item for that.
You wanna give it to me ahead of time so I can get it to her?
I'll get it from, yeah, she knows about she'll.
Oh, okay, that's great. Yeah, December 10th. I don't know, we don't put that in the
That's
paper.
2 days, just 1 day.
One day.
Anything else? Public comment? No? Done? Oh, I'm adjourning now. Oh, wait, ow. Public comment? Sorry. Anybody on the
You
owl?
muted everybody.
Going once, going twice.
Oh, right, done. Thank you. Good night.
I just want to point out that there are more.